Fortnite fans? Welcome back to the Fortnite Champion Series. It is time. The Reboot Round is upon us. We just wrapped up EU NA East. We know which trios are moving on to finals next week there, but now we have to do the same thing here. We got 4 matches ahead of us, and of course, you know we brought in the very best. It's Kelly, it's Panda, my friends. It's Reboot Round time.
I love the Reboot Round. It is, I mean, we all love the finals, but the Reboot Round is the most unpredictable section of the FNCS. You really don't know what's going to happen, and we get to ride off of the high from North American East, especially with that incredible Game 4 Macwood win, which went down to the ultimate heal-off. I don't think I've ever seen such a strategic heal-off that was that game, Panda.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think the momentum coming off of NAEs was crazy. You had that Wrigley clutch in the beginning of it, and then wrap it up with the heel off between Macwood and the other play. I mean, like, just insanity to say the least. But you know what? That puts the pressure on West. Are we going to see some big clutch moments? Are we going to see some big heel offs? I don't know. Tell me, Zeke. Are we?
Dude, I'm just manifesting it, okay? Right now, NA West about to bring the heat. They're going to make some crazy plays. We're going to see eliminations, some high ground retakes, some crazy heal-offs. It's going to be wild. That's right. I've spoken into existence. Okay. Speaking of that, we got to keep this existence rolling. We're going to talk about a few things before we jump aboard the battle bus. You can see the timer up there. So for now, let's talk about watch.fortnite.com. It is this exact thing you're doing right here, right now. But there's also a leaderboard. There's some trivia that you're going to lose to me at. It's okay. If there's one thing I excel at, I don't, is trivia. I do not. But it's okay. You can lose to me and everything's okay. Let's talk about the tournament format. What has led us to this moment in time? If you've never watched the FNCS before, it's pretty dope. So we start with an open qualifier round. We have 3 qualifiers. Yesterday, we actually concluded the semifinals, which now leads us, Kelly, to the Reboot Round.
And this is where teams are the most desperate, right? Because they went through the qualifiers where they saw the top 3 teams move forward to the finals. And they say, okay, that's fine. We'll go through the semifinals with our series points. And then they see the top 6 teams from that move forward. And this is now their last shot, their last chance. The 33 teams that came through from the semifinals, 7th through 17th place, are now all going to join one lobby together for times in a row. And it doesn't matter how many eliminations you get. It doesn't matter how great your rotations are. All that matters is if you get that victory royale. That is what is going to punch your ticket into the finals next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And with 4 opportunities on the day, like, this is going to be insane, especially considering normally it's 3 games. We only usually do 3 reboot rounds. However, with Arkham's team disbanding and then replaying again, of course, we have an extra game here on the day for these players to try and make their way through that victory royale. But look, we're excited about that. You know what else we're excited about? We're excited about the prizing. We're excited about that pickaxe. Zeke, didn't you make that champion pickaxe?
You know, I did, actually. I did make the pickaxe myself. I actually one day decided I was going to clone myself. And what happened was this clone became too powerful. I started to try to take over my life, as I myself would. We battled for a long time. We climbed the highest mountain peak, Mount Everest, and we did battle up there. We battled for about a month straight.
Dang.
And at the end of it, the remains of this other Zeke was made of gold, because I am gold. So I had to take that, make the Axe of Champions, digitize it so I would never forget myself. I told the story to Jonesy. He believed me, and he's like, hey, this sounds like a champion's pickaxe. We should put this in the hands of champions. I was like, Jonesy, the honor would, it's crazy. Also, you're talking, that's weird. But hey, Jonesy, thank you. So this is a 100% true story retelling that has changed 6 times of how the Axe of Champions is made. That's how it's gonna be. Okay, friends, we gotta talk about these regions. We got to see the 7 on there, as well as the prize money on the line. Guess what? Brazil has already wrapped up their games, so we can see how things went for them. So crazy stuff in Asia and Middle East. We actually had 6 reboot rounds because the teams at the top, the 3 champions from last season, all decided to disband. This case was not the same. They actually only had 2 teams disband, so they got 5 matches. Now, keep in mind, we're only going to get 4, but still, Kelly, 5 matches is pretty dope.
Yeah, and it started off with Nilo's team right there grabbing that victory royale, and they did it with only 3 eliminations. So again, it doesn't really matter about consistency. We love to harp on that point of the show, that consistency is key here. But for right now, it's not about consistency. It's about surviving till the very end.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. These players have put in some incredible work to walk away with these victory royales. And look, if you're thinking about this the same way you were thinking about games yesterday, you're making a mistake. you have to remember that eliminations do not matter. It is all about taking that win, and there's a special way you should focus on taking that win. Kelly, what do you think about the heal-off stuff that we saw in NA East?
I mean, that has to be it, right? I'm sure there's going to be teams trying to drop where llamas are going to be, trying to grab those much-needed chug cannons, but also I think to the end game, a lot of it is going to be situational awareness. We saw Macwood find those heal-offs, right? And the same thing with the opposing team. It wasn't stuff that they held. It was from downed players that they were able to grab those carrots, the cabbages, or I'm sorry, the corn and the cabbages, as well as another chug cannon. That is what really... It's everything, right? It's not just can they make it to the end, it's do they have the right loadout? Do they know where the enemy teams are? Do they have mats? So it's really going to be a top team performance that's going to make or break them.
Yeah, definitely. The strategy completely changes, right? It is going to be so different, and if you've never seen a reboot round before, I'm telling you, it's about to be hype. Now, guys, we're going to talk about which trios we'll be watching here in the reboot round. To do that, let's catch up with the results from the heats out of NA West from yesterday. Now, remember the top 6 trios, they have already moved on through to the finals, okay? That's next weekend, next Saturday, and next Sunday. So we'll see 3 heats, and remember, 7th through 17th, they're the trios we'll be watching today.
For me, you have to look to OptiDog's team right here. A 1-point difference from 6th and 7th place, and they even had a victory royale. But because they had kind of a up and down performance in their they just barely missed the mark, but they have another opportunity right here, already showcasing that they could grab a victory royale. Same thing with Sean's team down in 9th place right there. And I have to look to Tricky, Zayrez, and Goon. This isn't the first time that they've been through a reboot round. They got 9th place in Season 6, and they're going to be back once again.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can end up clutching up yet again, especially with the experience being that you've already done a reboot round, you've already experienced what a reboot round is like, and coming back and potentially running through it again, that's the question that's going to get answered in a few. But we have to shout out some of these other teams like Fast, Pump, Flick, Jader, and Forswear. This is a trio that did exceptionally well through qualifiers, got to the semifinals, but fell just a little bit short here in heat number 1, and they're showing up here in the reboot round.
Going to be looking at heat number 2 right now, joining the 7th through 17th place teams, and of course Symmetrical, Alithi, and Frappi walking away with 195 right there. Our top 3 teams grabbing a victory royale each, but again, it's all about the 7th through 17th place here. And I do appreciate the double god in 7th, because they're definitely going to need some kind of holy intervention if they want to make it into the finals. But with Skadoosh on their team, I think that they have a great chance making it into the finals, but they're going to have to go up against 32 other teams that are desperate. They are foaming at the mouth to grab this opportunity, because regardless of how well you've done in the qualifiers, the semifinals, there's no money won there. You only make money if you make it into the finals.
Yeah, that's right. And for a team like Flimsy there, they got a victory royale yesterday, so they're probably feeling pretty confident going into today. Another team that's probably feeling pretty confident, it's France. Sharp and Blay, they got a victory royale yesterday. They weren't necessarily as consistent as far as placement and elimination goes, but they still walked away with a victory royale. That puts them at least in a little bit better position going into today, knowing that, hey, listen, we have the potential to get victory royales. Now we just got to do it in one of these 4 games.
But listen, I think out of the 3 heats that we have here, the teams that are 7th through 17th place, at least 9 teams grabbed victory royale. So it's not 9 teams that can make it through the reboot round. It's only the top 4. And here, the heat that we got to watch yesterday, of course, we watched FJAA, Ugly Gremlin, and Jaquan almost grab it. It was a 1-point difference from Takada's team and our 7th place team right here. And for me, I'm it's Flaws, Leo, and Lucas. Lucas is bad. That's an incorrect name. We see these players change their names all the time. I think he needs to change his name to Lucas is Good, because they grabbed an incredible victory royale yesterday, and they also grabbed a 4th place finish as well. So this right here is the team that I'm going to be looking towards.
Yeah, I could definitely agree here with Kelly, especially them being one of the few that did walk away. Remember, like she said, 9 of these teams throughout these heats had a victory royale and are playing in the reboot round today. So there's a good chance they can make something happen. Another team that really needs to make something happen is Lando, Hey, and Jazz Blank. They're an exceptional team. We watched a lot of great plays come out of yesterday. Now, placement points, though, they were a little bit lacking. Although they did get that victory royale, they still had 22 eliminations. So they need to dial it back today on the eliminations and really focus on the VR.
We're looking at a lot of names and a lot of numbers, but I want to see them in action. I want to see why these teams deserve to be in the finals. And what a better team to look at than it's Lucas's Bad Flaws and Mystery Leo. They're going to be landing in steamy stacks, and they did that uncontested yesterday, although they're going to be joining the 11 teams or the 10 teams from the Heats 1 and 2. So I'm not exactly certain if they're going to be uncontested again, but with that VR and that third place finish, they're definitely a team to contend against.
That they definitely are. And remember, these are teams that walked away with the victory royale yesterday in heat number 2, meaning that they have what it takes to get the VR. They just need to replicate that same energy going into these reboot rounds. And that's what I think we're going to see. You see Josh Blaine clutching up here on the low ground, and heel off as is his specialty. So this could be a good day for them, to say the least.
Yeah, actually, that might have been one of the only teams we got to see win a heal off during our heats, and that is, a pivotal strategy going into the reboot round. Finally, taking a look at Flumsy's team right here from heat number 2. They did grab a victory royale as well as a 5th place finish. I'm really excited to see how these 3 teams are going to be competing. Those are teams that did grab a victory royale from yesterday, which of course seems like that's a pretty good indicator how they might perform today.
I mean, you have to do more than just the victory royale, right? If you're looking in the case of semifinals, but for here, the reboot round, that's the only thing that matters. And we've seen a lot of these high-profile trios we expect would be like, oh yeah, victory round, that's all it takes, no problem, we can make that happen. They didn't make it in EU or NA East, so we'll have to see how things go here in NA West. I'm hopeful, but we'll see how things go. Guys, we got to talk about these predictions and some of the trios you think could make it through. We got some cool highlights to look at. Why don't you guys talk to me about these trios?
So, I don't know if this is a team that I think is going to win the reboot round, but this is a team that has a lot of story, a lot of history. Zayrez and Tricky playing together for a long time, and in fact, in Season 6, they got 9th place in their heat, made it to the reboot round, but after 4 rounds, they weren't able to clinch it out. So I feel like they have a lot to prove here. We did see them in the grand finals for Season 5, so it's not a new situation for them.
It isn't a new situation, and I think that they're going to really try to hold on to this. They understand how the reboot round works. They know that they've experienced it before. They know how to handle these situations, these high-pressure situations, to say the least. But will they be able to hold on? That's the question, especially going up against a team like Riverson.
Listen, they don't have Macon's team here to, whatever you want to call it, contest them. So this is their shot, right? They have an opportunity with Macon not even making it through the reboot round. Hopefully they won't get 5 teams like we saw in qualifier 3. I mean, Panda, you have to speak for it, right? You and Sundown picked this team. It's Riverson. He has to make it to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have absolute faith in Riverson, Extinct, and Kenny's making it through if they're uncontested. But if we see some of the action that replicated yesterday, or replicate into today, I should say, it's going to be tough for them, to say the least, because this is a team that does exceptionally well if they make it through the early game. They do very well in the mid game. They do very well in the late game. The problem is they struggle in the early game when they are contested. So my faith in my pick, along with Sundown, is Riverson, Extinct, and Kenny's going into game number 1.
Also, we saw it in North American East, P God changing up his drop spot, and that is what punched their ticket into the Victory Royale and grabbing a spot into the finals. So maybe that's something that we're going to be seeing here today. Obviously, the meta gets thrown out the door. A lot of teams are going to just have to change what they're doing, just not even from the qualifiers, but also from the heats. They haven't faced these teams potentially in weeks, maybe. So for me, my pick, though, it's going to be Flaws, Leo, and Lucas is bad. We just saw their performance from yesterday. They grabbed a VR and that 3rd place finish. Also, they have a pretty commanding lead with Steamy Stacks. So again, we don't really know just yet if a team is planning on landing on them in Steamy Stacks, but if they're going to be uncontested, I have 100% confidence that this team is going to be moving on to the finals.
It's a very different a very different land with a lot of different rules that we'll find out as we play them. Fortnite fam, this is it. The reboot round is about to kick off. Remember, we have 4 matches. If you get the Victory Royale, that's it. Your team has got a ticket to the finals. We're removing that team from the remaining trios, and then it's an all-out brawl for those last 3 spots. But y'all know what time it is. We, of course, have to jump aboard the battle bus. We've got the wonderful Clay Staling and Sundown, who will be our eyes in the sky. They'll be calling all the action, and then in between games, we'll come back here and lose our minds about how crazy and insane that last game was. So for now, you know what time it is. Go hang out with our friends Clay and Sundown.
Thank you so much, Panda, Kelly, and Zeke. And what's up, Fortnite fam? A quick turnaround and a very exciting day of Reboot games, but we're going to get right on into it. My name's Sundown, joined by the fantastic, as always, Clay Stelling. And Clay, with the Reboot rounds, as always, all that matters is that big W, the VR at the end, and we're hopping right on board with a team who has a very solid chance of grabbing one of the four here in Riversound Extinct in Endless Kenny's.
And they are uncontested. That was one of the biggest things for them throughout the entire qualifiers, is that every single time they were contested, and they really hit it home there. And the analyst asked that if they're, since Macon and company are not here, they've got this all to themselves and finally get to show us what they can do with it.
And if anything, I don't know if they breathe a sigh of relief at this point, if they go back to it, because if you watched any of the other shows, if you watched NAW, first of all, thank you. This region is fantastic. There's some great players we want to highlight. But coming over at Lazy Lake, it was quite literally 24 games of head-to-head. Well, not 24. There was like 2 where they ended up dipping and trying a Pleasant Park route. So we'll say 22 games of just head-to-head battle to Kenny's Riversound Extinct, and then Macon, Dog, and Jay. Macon, Dog, and Jay, unfortunately, though, ended up getting the short stick of it and not even qualifying for the Reboot round, so their season is over. We're going to take a look at the map on the right-hand side, as NA West is going to go through probably a little bit more of a typical pattern here, where we'll see one trio already having dropped off of an initial 50-50, but otherwise, everyone just wants to stay on their feet.
Northeast zone, that's going to play into a lot of teams that have been predicted, as we do see Lil J unfortunately going to fall there. I'm excited to see what happens there at Lazy in the future. If anybody decides to make the run over, if they're being too contested, moving over, we got Zayrez, Triggy, and their teammate here trying to get the last remaining member of that trio, and they're going to take him down quickly. And that's what they need. If you're fighting out here at the old Shark POI, you have to fight quickly, because you're always going to be so far from the zone.
It's one of the, I don't want to say worst spots to fight when contested, but it's so rough because the rotation out of there isn't necessarily the best anyway. And if you're stuck fighting with such a minimal amount of loot, you're really kind of 50-50ing over 1 or 2 of the chest spawns or some of the areas where there's a little bit more populated ground loot. And it's just not necessarily the most advantageous position. But if you can get it completely by yourself and then maybe get the drop on a Cora rotation, that's where you see teams in that area have a lot of success. But right now, you can see Misty, Luca, Lux out, Halcon got a decent amount of space, and then just focusing on getting the materials up. And normally, this would be the part of the cast where we start kind of breaking down, like, okay, these are the thresholds the player's at, here's what's at stake. But in the Reboot rounds, it's very simple. Win and you get a ticket to the finals. There's 4 games. That's it.
That's all you got to do. We saw it over in EU and NA, is how just close it can get. And I will be honest, if you're landing at a POI that has cabbages and you're not actually grabbing them, you've got to start prioritizing that now. Misty doesn't have that. We've got them over at Pleasant. We've got them over at the Orchard. I believe there's still some in Holly Hedges, to my knowledge, over there. But luckily for Halcon, Flux, and Luca, they're getting med kits, they're prioritizing the floppers, and that's the strong point of Misty. There's a lot of fishing spots all around it.
Yeah, and one thing to note, as the stakes of the game do change a little bit, you'll see some of the shifts in the strategies, whether it was Game 4 over in NA East, where we saw it was a minute-plus long heal-off that came down to how well you were able to execute a medkits. And in fact, the 2G2 members trying to go back-to-back in that heal-off, I think Niddle actually might have had an execution error on that side where he popped enough cabbages to get off a medkit. So that's one thing we'll be keeping an eye on, is if there is any potential for some of those double medkit place we've seen before, as Gunvro is trying desperately to just get out of dodge. So disengaging from the shark isn't awful if you can get around that first main island. However, I recommend, like, 99% of the time, it is so worth getting into one of those boats. You can create so much additional distance with the boats. They eat up a ton of shots. It's 800 plus HP. You can break line of sight, and the chair that's there generally will help block it off. But Gunvro going down, and that's a rough way to be finished off. No builds, inflatable betraying him there, and it looks like he created enough distance to potentially kind of get to the boat and the shack on the other side, but Lime and Synapse will take that elim and they'll walk away now. Just outside the middle of the map, over by, I think there are some cabbage spawns over here. We see Ray's, Former, and Rimuru. Yeah, Vanilla's, Guy Aiden, and Yoris on the other side of him, just posted up kind of on that high ground, trying to back him down a little bit, but really, the only incentive you have to fight is to ensure you're above that storm surge threshold. That's it.
And maybe if you are not that great off and loop, but agreed. You only should be looking for tags fighting if you need those tags, knowing that you land in a spot over here and you're not going to get them rotating out. Vanilla's is going to look for some, but I don't know what they're going to find. I think if I had actually good amount there on the backside, a couple tags there will put them in a great spot going forward. And if they can keep this pressure on, honestly, with where they're located, with where they're zoned, they could push this fight if they want to. Look at how low Ray's got from that initial engagement.
Yeah, but again, why risk it? All of these players are good enough to be able to lock it down, and what you're going to see is generally a battle over that static launch pad that we see at all of these kind of radar dish, alien bases, whatever you end up wanting to refer to them. The static turret and the static launch pad, as well as those IO cards, end up making them a focal point for some just pass-through as a rotation. It's generally worth heading up in that area. But because a lot of trios end up knowing that, you have to be careful. I mean, the number of ambushes we've seen, whether it's in those bushes right around the area, which is why Guy Aiden and Vanillas are trying to go through it. Just like, hey, let's make sure nobody wants to just pop around and get a nice little bead on us as we're heading to the center of the map.
Some nice heal locations as well. There's some fruit boxes here they can grab some, but moving over to Corny, this is going to be another one of those places that is very prioritized in the loot that it has, just in those heals. And you see her already having a chug cannon, and we know that is going to play such a big part of the games today. If you have a chug cannon, you are automatically going to be one level up on everyone else trying to play the heal off game.
And not even just the heal off game, statistically looking at Fortnite as a whole, and not even just competitive play, this is across the entire board. Outside of the typical pump shotgun, shields, and assault rifle, if you end up touching a chug splash cannon, there's a 40% chance likelihood that you ended up winning the game at that point in time. That is bonkers. It is one of the highest indicating facts of you winning a game. But a quick stat, left-hand side, you can see that Yasir and Godku both advanced out of the reboot round last season, trying to do it again this season. And they're one of my predictions. So how the predictions work on the analysts and casters, and if you guys are curious and kind of how we look in the productions on this side, because there are 4 games, and at some point one of us might end up getting it right. As we've seen before, some of us are pretty decent at our jobs occasionally, but we make 4 predictions going through as the ones who might end up winning the game. So Riversun ended up being first, but I think I ended up putting Optidog, Godku, and Yasser just in that second slot because they were so close yesterday, and we've seen that when things end up going their way, they are more than capable of winning a match, which is something that a lot of these teams in West you can't reliably say, but they've done it on cast and in these 4th qualifiers time and time again. But right now, Fast Pump Flick, Jotter under a lot of pressure, Force Swipe going down right away, Fast Pump Flick not hitting any Fast Pump Flicks, in fact, only finds 1, and Skills ends up returning it right back away, all going to be onto Jotter, and he gets picked up, and that is a clean wipe.
Quick and effective as well. They only going to have 1 player down, and this is going to be even more of a quick fight as we move over to Proyo. Carp and Moose, they've already got a player down, looking to get 1 more only. Mark right there on the other side, and Moose says goodbye. And honestly, if you're taking any fights in the reboot round, they need to be like that. They need to be quick. You need to get out of there as soon as you can and keep moving through. Moose, though, has a very interesting situation. He's got some extra heals here, but with only 1 Surffish, I'm not seeing a lot of white heals on them. This could be why they're going for these fights. They don't really have an option to win that heal off.
So, and one thing that we've seen in some of these reboot games, like, yes, some of them go to these very long heal offs and others don't. And part of the reason for that is as some of these players and trios begin stacking these white heals and stacking fish, they're opting out of other forms of utility, other forms of weaponry, and their ability to potentially play a certain type of style. And it gets into circumstances where, yes, having those options for the white heals is nice if it goes to a heal off circumstance. And certainly in competitive Fortnite, that happens on a regular basis. It doesn't always happen, as we saw last season when Saf and Co. were able to pick up a huge victory round, or 2 seasons ago, excuse me. They would not be denied in that regard. It was just straight up cleaning it out. But right now you can see flaws. Lucas is bad, and Leo picking up a nice knock. They're going to make sure they get the shakedown, get the information, try and get as much damage as possible, as we will have a Storm Surge warning, but might not end up with actual Surge, as there's a decent amount of aggressiveness coming out of West right now, Clay.
They want this, and look at Flaws getting in. They box them like a fish, hoping that they've got some extra ones there. Gonna cancel that shakedown. That's honestly a mechanic that we haven't really seen used that much this season, but it's so nice to have. You pick them up, you go in that shakedown. If you just reload, you can cancel that animation, get out of there, as Leo is going to find some nice tags onto the player running away. That's going to be shield almost broken there. One more tag will do it, and that teammate is just going to try to have to run away, as Johnny down very, very low on the HP. Luke is going to be right down the other side. He's going to take a lot of damage, but Leo is there to follow it up. They get those eliminations, but looking at what they got out of it, again, not a lot of white heals.
They didn't get a lot of white heals, but they got a bunch of space. There is no one near that side of the map, and because you have the zip lines down that entire eastern side, if you're controlling that one main hill, it makes it really difficult for anybody to be able to rotate around you, and you have the option to be able to go somewhere else, but they need to be careful as Riversong is riding up over the hill. And it's something you'll see across a lot of different regions. There's some of these priority areas that might not always be controlled in our regular, whether it's the 6-game qualifiers or 12-game finals, but in reboot rounds, being able to control caches of metal, being able to control areas where there is a massive stockpile of some of those fruit baskets, whether it's over at Corning Complex or at some of these bridge areas, it gives you an accessibility. It's just one extra win condition, one extra option, similar what we talked about yesterday, as we do get that Storm Surge warning on the right hand side, so everyone gets an idea of kind of where they're at right now. Gaia and Eurus and Vanilla's sitting just under 300 above, so they're going to feel pretty happy about that. Storm Surge is 25 damage every 5 seconds to the trio who has done the least amount of damage. We do know West loves their reboots as one ticks over there, and we go from 73 to 74 players left.
Moving through, we get to see Tilted Technique, Funky, Microwave, and Sean Franklin trying to get their footing here. And look at how big this base is. If they could establish space here, nobody great spot, but other team on the other side of the wall, they were actually stuck in their box, and it's not going in their favor, trying to get in together, and that's what they need to do. The face of the ramp is going to come through. They're going to put the cone down, and everyone just going to fall, and this is what you want to see in that reboot round. The 15 cabbages, they're almost 1,000 damage above Surge.
And he has the medkits in there as well. And I would really struggle not to pick this team and put them into one of my predictions, simply because yesterday it was one of those, we kind of was equivalating it to storytelling and going through. It was one of those denouement, kind of those falling action moments that we just barely missed. We kind of got the call out right at the end, but they were our match number 6 winners. They stormed up the leaderboard and just ripped away that 17th place spot to qualify for the reboot round right now. And all of a sudden, 15 cabbages, 3 med kits, 1K above Surge, prime center zone positioning. Maybe that miracle run could enter right away, but my prediction, a team who uncontested all of a sudden is looking fantastic, with the exception of only being 133 above Surge, Extinct Riversound and Kenny's. They've invested a lot of hard mats already, but it's mostly been recycled.
This beautiful thing about being here is that they can farm it all right back. They've got that IO car they can rotate in with as well. And honestly, looking at their line rotating into zone, it's perfectly fine. They don't really have a lot of contention and a lot of players rotating with them, and looking at them as they're rotating through. And with only 2 people that need to go down before Surge, they're comfortable at this level of damage.
I'm not gonna lie there, like my heart stopped a little bit when I saw Extinct. I'm terrified of heights, period. So even just like jumping from the battle bus, or when you have fall damage immunity, like still get that little rush of vertigo. But you never quite know, right? Like we've seen Stranger Things go on with kind of those cars and some of the shenanigans that have gone up there, but just getting bonked right off of the end. And you can see kind of in Extinct's mind too, he wasn't quite sure, as we do have one trio who's definitively being pressured by Storm Surge, and it's Lux, Luca, and Halcon. And this is something we've talked about. No, actually, it flips away from him right as we flip onto him. They're 40 damage above, so a little bit of rescue and respite coming through, as another trio or potentially duo will be the ones under pressure. Normally, this would be when everybody would get that first round of +5 points, but the points don't matter today. It's all about the W. The points are made up. It's about finding cabbages, finding med kits, holding on to your heels, and just trying to be the last one on your feet.
And if you're getting hit by Surge right now, it puts you in an even more worse off spot than before. Right, in the 16 qualifiers, you get hit by Surge, it's not that bad. Again, you can still get those placement points and the elimination. But when you're going for the Victory Royale, and when reboot rounds have trended towards heal loss, if you have to invest any sort of white HP heals into getting back into the game, it's just not going to be good. But luckily for them, they're going to find a team landing right on the other side, not able to get Jay, as Luca's actually going to go down.
Yeah, a bunch of people trying to pack into this corner here, and it's just not really working out for them. You can see in the bottom right-hand side of your map, there's so many trios who are on the southwestern side, just barely trying to get in the edge of zone. You can see Halcon trying to build out, extend, change layers a little bit, recognizing that Mabruto, Urazil, and Yumi, and JT the Hunter there. Luca will be back up on his heat, but only has the 30 effective HP. Luckily, Halcon is able to get them in just enough. Luxout is holding Bills, trying to give Luca enough room to be able to pop any of their excess utility. But as you talked about now, do you really want to be using those med kits? And I mean, at the same time, if you hold on for it too long, you might not get the chance. But we speak of a chance, and Halcon puts some great shots down, but unfortunately, he gets it returned, and the return fire was huge. That was the entirety of his shield going away there. But Mabruto, JT the Hunt, and Rizzo have been selected as Rimuru, Formo, and Raze are just pelting shots towards them.
And then you'll look down from above. Luca, Halcon, and Lux need to get involved and try to find anything they can, because as you just saw, their HP needs it. They're going to get one of the eliminations. Actually, I don't even think it's going to go over. It may have just been the Siphon, and now it's too late. We see Raze, Forma, and Rimuru just go in, get their loot, get those elims as well, and they're looking good. So a little bit of a misplay is going to put them in a unfortunate spot. They're going to have to go down, try to play for scraps, which at this point, they need anything that they can get, so they're fine getting some scraps, getting some minis there as well. But with where the zone pulled, with their HP, this is going to be a very hard game to come back from.
Honestly, this rotation is rough, but they have a very clean path. If they go like right now, you can see the other team rotated ahead of them. They just need to go to the east and just walk to the river and follow the river downstream. Everyone else has already gone. There's nobody there in the line of sight, and if they look, they should realize they don't need to invest anything. Like, everyone has already made it to the zone. They're the last stragglers. Things are going to get very awkward when they get closer to the end, but for now, they can kind of just follow this route and pick up whatever scraps are there, and they're okay with that.
I was going to say, if they're below, it's going to be rough. But luckily, they're going to fall above, as we see Vanilla's and Guy Aiden going to fall. Swayze will as well. And look, this is a great rotation. Going to use that natural cover just to break that line of sight and not have to use those builds. That, like, again, this is beautiful.
This is a fantastic rotation. This is literally exactly what I talked about, where if they're aware and they have just a little bit of the patience, a little bit of the savvy and the experience to kind of poke their head out and recognize, hey, nobody's over here. We can just kind of walk that way, knowing that people have already rotated. Ooh. But the problem is they should have stuck around the backside of the river. You don't have the material. You don't have the ability to go up for that high ground. Go through the river area and keep your line of sight advantage. Raze, Former, and Rimmer rotated ahead of you. That was the team who was next to them. They were the red triangles who launch padded out and took this central area. But if they had just gone quickly through the river, they should have been able to tuck right underneath that bridge and been fine. Instead, they are now going to be forced out, as Extinct is able to pick that one up. Eliminations again. No point in getting them except the Siphon and denying your opponents a chance to move further. There's no points to them. It's all about the VR. Storm Surge will tick on there. Everyone will get kind of an idea where they are, as Luxout and Halcon are underneath.
it seems like Luca may have done a lot of their damages. Kadoosh is actually going to go down. That may be just enough damage for them to go off of it. Now, Kadoosh and company are going to get tagged up, but Gakoi is going to find Lux out there. Only one more member of that trio left up. Is Gakoi actually going to lose all of his teammates? Still below, found the damage, and it still was not enough. The edits are there, but can they find the player underneath them? No, they're going to sit in the cone for now, trying to pop any sort of shield just to get above. It's still going to tick for so much damage. There's players right below, but they can't get involved. They just got to try to out-heal this, and with 4 players that need to go down, I don't think they've got enough HP in their inventory to do so.
Yes, trying to use everything. The spray is even coming in. Somebody recognizes he's there. He's going to get taken out because, like we've talked about, the Storm Surge, it doesn't give the visual cue to the players, but there is an audio when their shields get cracked. Players know it's coming through, but right now, Extinct Riverside Kennedy, they need to be careful. Extinct trying to back him off, give his team a little bit of room, but instead, he's going to get caught in a pickle, and he's going down. The cucumber in the jar is extinct, even though it's quite delicious right now. Riverside and Kenny's, though, finding a little bit of respite. They're going to get in a bush, and they're just going to breathe for a sec. Okay, you can see Riverside takes that nice little mini, and he's going to get a good pot to get underneath to the side here, and should be able to just post up. He has Lucas and Co directly above him. They're going to start kind of allocating the resources in the correct spot. Kenny's is going to pop a medkit. Riverside going to get the big pot off. They will still have the shield fish, which I like them saving that for the later, but we're into the moving zones, and it's pulling right past the entire lobby. We're going up to the northeast, and we're also going directly across corner east. So the option for players to be able to dip in real quickly and pick up some white heals and pop back out, they're all in play. I promise you, somebody has a cache of white heals hidden somewhere among these 45 players who is left.
And that was the unfortunate side effects of fighting right there for Kennedy's Riverside. They wanted those elims. They got a little bit too aggressive, and now you saw they paid the price with Extinct going down. I believe he even had a launch pad maybe in that inventory. See if they're going to make their rotation. Leo, Flaws, and Lucas are rotating through, but they're going to get beamed up from above. FJ getting beamed there as well. High ground is where a lot of players are going to want to be, so we'll see high ground retakes here in West. The launch pads will go up, and we'll see who's on high ground. I couldn't see that for a second there, but they're still securing it.
Yeah, I can see Rimuru now actually in a little bit of a tough spot holding the back part of his tarp. You can see Riverside trying to get into Salco's tarp, but his path really, unfortunately, a couple of times taking a lot of excess storm damage when he really didn't need to. Now trying to get on the backside of yet another tarp, and very uncharacteristically, there is just no one hanging out on this kind of weaker side of the storm, which for NA West tends to be where lots going on, but that's because we got a nice little build battle go into the sky. Carp and Leo are going to be able to take it away. Lucas and Flaws doing their best to try and battle with it, and Carp just going to keep going. Finally now, other players of West look to the sky, and Carp, he slips, he falls, he's not able to catch himself, and he goes down. Moose also getting chopped. Lucas is off on ultimate height, but how much does he have left as Leo's and Flaws are trying to hold with it? They're 187 above, 211 above. Storm Surge should turn off here in a second as we're getting into the full moving, as Leo throws the sniper shot down, but instead catches a whole bunch of medium bullets to the face. 8 HP, but high ground control is theirs. The question is, how much of their utility did it cost? I think the answer is a lot.
A lot of the mats there as well. Leo gonna get dropped down. Flaws gonna get shot down as well. This is where high ground control, if you grabbed it too early, it's gonna cost you your entire game. Luckily, they've got 3 more to go through, but as we see Riverside there on the low ground trying to make their way on through, running out of builds. Flaws now gonna fall down to Microwave and Gremlin. Unfortunately, that high ground retake may have cost them too much too early. Riverside, though, not a lot to work with. 4 builds remaining, running out as they're trying to build that box. Gonna take a lot of damage because of it. They've got a player in their tarp. They're gonna find the shot, but look how much they just took for that. Their teammate is going to get it, but they've got to dip into zone. That wall gonna block them off, and that's gonna be them going down. What can Kenny's find on the other side? He only has a shield fist, so heal off is not here. He needs to just pop off.
Just about to say, give me the funky microwave. If Kenny's does it, it's going to be a miracle, but there's no shot he's going to be able to run this out. It would be one of the most absurd solo clutches we've seen, but that's going to be the end of his run there as he gets taken out. Sharp trying to do his best. You can see Boxed by Jaquan going for a late high ground technique, but that's the team we talked about in Game 6 yesterday. They stole it away with the Victory Royale, and they had high ground, but no, instead, it's Ugly Gremlin and Boxed by Jaquan, the 7th place team from that same heat, who take it away. It's a duo so up on height. Eclipse trying to get up there, but they actually get walled off and get forced to take a fight with the second high ground. He takes a ton of damage out from Funky Microwave. Up on the high ground, Jaquan trying to go down. Ugly Gremlin gets it taken away, finds a huge 97 tag into the pump swap, but he's not going to be able to get the confirm as his teammate Jaquan does end up going down. 0 builds here for the Ugly Gremlin. He's trying to find somebody, trying to get wall to wall, box to box, and instead he gets obliterated. But Tidy Technique doesn't have the technique to take it all the way to the finals as he goes down. So the question is, who is still up with their full trio? And it looks like that's the low ground, hip to hip, and that's high ground. Eyes on Sir Brian, Mudio, and Revenant Angel, Scissor, Eclipse, and Poppy. Those are the 3 full trios. And look at the cabbages. He says, I didn't lose my cabbages. He's got them all in the inventory.
He's got no mats, though. If they're going to go for heal off, he's got to dip into zone right now. I know it's very early for them, but look, these people are going to start to drop down. This is going to be a lot of damage onto them if they're not able to get it. So Angel's going to get it. Cabbage is going to start to be popped. He's got to go for the chug cannon now as well. Someone on top of him, though. That's it. You run out of builds. Oh, it's that open in the middle of the zone. You can't go for the heal off. Everyone's starting to drop down. It's all on Mudio. Sir Brian, what can they find? They don't have the heal offs. They don't have the potential. They have to look up, and Poppy is going to find the chug cannon there on Mudio. So Brian has nothing there. They find the Victory Royale, and it didn't even go to a heal off.
That's what we talked about at the start. When you have the resources, you're able to get it done. The high ground control won out in the end. A great high ground retake from Poppy and his trio, and honestly working top down and trying to punish everybody who maybe overinvested a little bit too much to the heal off, and pulling across the river spelt their ultimate doom.
Yeah, definitely needed to step back just a little bit early if they were going for that heal off, but what a great win for Poppy and them. They got to be feeling excited there, so we're going to send it over to Kelly, to Panda, and to Zeke so we can break all that action down.
Thank you guys so much. Fantastic as always. My goodness, what a first game here at NAW. This felt more like a traditional game of Fortnite than any other reboot round, which is a little weird, Kelly.
It was quite surprising, and we were even saying, oh, it's an AWES, height steals don't happen, and then I think height got stolen twice there, and unfortunately got stolen away from the team that I had to win the first Victory Royale. Flaws, Leo, Lucas had a pretty good job. They were holding height, but there was a point where they went down to about 30-50% health, and I think that they should have just given up height, went to a mid ground there and tried to recuperate, but unfortunately it was stolen from them as well as getting eliminated. But you know, I think Clay's being a little modest right now. Poppy, Sizer, and Eclipse was the team that he had for the 3rd pick, so first prediction out of the way for Clay. Looks like he is beating us right now.
Yeah, listen, he's understanding what's about to happen here in the West Coast, but breaking all this down, you have to look at what happened in this game. So much action. You see big snipes coming out, obviously helping with the Storm Surge later on in the round. We saw players even drop the Storm Surge, so it's one of those things that just happens, right? But for Pofi, Scissor, and Eclipse, they did an exceptional job with a total eliminations of 11.
Oof, yeah,
Top
to get
qual finish of 9th. Like, that's just crazy, Kelly.
That is absolutely crazy. An 11 elimination Victory Royale for a reboot round? I mean, they've already been into the finals twice before. I don't think it's too much of a surprise to see them here again, but they had the ultimate strategy. They waited for everyone to get so low, and then they stole height, held it strong. Sizer actually staying up on top while Poppy dropped down, grabbing those much needed eliminations because he wasn't too sure just what the people on the bottom had. So incredible team play right here, definitely deserving their spot in the finals.
Yeah, they definitely deserve it. And just a quick shout out, Sizer, it's his first this will be his first FNCS final appearance. So huge shout out to him, and huge shout out to the team for making it through round number 1 of the reboot rounds. I mean, look, there's still 3 more games to go, so that means there's 3 more opportunities here for these teams to qualify.
And you know, at the start of the show, we talked about the opportunity that Riverson had if they were going to go uncontested, and they were, and they made it pretty far into the competition. Unfortunately, it did go down to a solo player there, not able to hold it all the way through. But this right now, I don't think we're going to see a solo clutch, and if it is, it's going to be because no one else is paying attention. I think you're going to have a full trio here. You're going to have height, and the heal off wasn't even a thing in this game, but obviously we got 3 more games to go. A heal off is definitely going to happen, Panda.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see more of that here coming up. And for Poofy, right, obviously the elimination was important. That's why he went for the down player and fully eliminated him. But when he saw that Victory Royale go off without the zones even fully being closed, he was probably like, Wait, it's already over?
Dude, that's how I would feel, especially in those situations, right? When we're talking about how crazy Reboot Rounds can be, this was super, super tame. And I like that they did not allow this to go to a heal off. That is like the biggest advice we give players. It's just the moment that you know, because you know they're going to have floppers, they're going to have cabbages, they're going to have chug cannons. Just don't let them. Don't give them that opportunity. Just push them. You know they have that as their inventory. That means they have a lot less on the weapon front, so you can try and at least get aggressive. And you don't even necessarily have to eliminate them, but if you at least slow them down from what they're trying to do, you can kind of like at least have a game plan going in, right, Kelly?
Well, yeah, that's what happened with the team that I picked. I thought that Lux team, or I'm sorry, not Lux team, but Flaw's team there, they had height. They held it for pretty long, but they only were down to like 40-50% HP there. So yeah, you have to be fully committed. You have to have the exact right settings, and you have to be prepared for every kind of ending. It doesn't matter if you're going to go for the heal up. You have to be prepared for whatever is going to happen in this game, Panda.
Yeah, you definitely do. I mean, look, and they were. That's why they walk away with game number 1 being theirs. And look, when you're in a situation like this and the pressure is on, like the reboot round pressure, it's unmatched, right? Even the people in the grand finals would probably say that you have more stress on you when you're playing these reboot rounds. So listen, 3 more opportunities. Let's see who can overcome that pressure and walk away with one of those victory royales, Zeke.
Oh man, that's right. It's game time. We heard the battle bus beeping, so we're jumping back aboard. So Clay, Sundown, let's get into game number 2.
Thank you so much, Panda, Kelly, and Zeke. 1 match down, 3 to go. Poffy and his trio advancing in reboot round number 1. Who will be the last 3 trios to join them, as all that matters is the victory royale? And look at the fishies.
I love that contrail. One of my favorites. And it's just so adorable when you're flying in, who's got the fish swimming with you there. And honestly, we're gonna need to see a little bit more flopper action. I mean, we started off this chapter with it being the flopper meta, and if any time of it to come back, this is the one to do it in.
Now, in particular, because a lot of people assume if you have even that double chug splash cannon, and speaking of, Llama 210 on the way in, you can see that mark coming out. That's Riverstone and Kenny's and Co. saying, hey, we know where that is right away. Tagging that one out, and again, uncontested. So uncontested Lazy Lake and immediate Llama start. That's got to be a sign, right?
It has to, but look how far that Llama is away. They've got to get over there quickly. Luckily they've got the boat, so they can contain it very, very early on. Because I mean, if you let a Llama get away in a reboot round, that's gonna hurt. That is going to hurt. So luckily, you see Extinct going for it. He's actually gonna hit it with the boat, which will stun it for now. And just look at all those headshots gonna come out. Easy Llama secure. She's gonna go for the pickaxe as well.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. Like the min max on that tech, it's super unfortunate that they aggroed the Llama while they were gliding in. Like that's knowing your drop so well that they were so low to the point that the Llama ended up just like starting to run away from them. Just as Myth found out when his first return to Fortnite last week. Llamas do run away from you now. You do need to peace control them. We are in the year 2021 and we are peace controlling our Llamas in order to get them. This is what we have come down to. But for those of you who don't know, the boats, as you saw, if you hit them directly with them or a cart, will stun them as well. And being able to actually find that, drill it as its timer is running out, use the entire clip of the small ammo, and then swap over the pickaxe when realistically it probably only had a couple more seconds until it was able to go. I think if you stun it, it extends that expiration time a little bit longer. But enough about the Llama min-maxing. Let's swing on over to Believers Beach. We've already had 3 trios drop, so 9 players down. Everyone else is with their full trio. Everyone has a buddy, and I don't think anybody's really going to want to fight at this point.
With that other team disengaging all the way to the hotel and past it at this point, they're not going to really find this engagement they want. They're going up for it, but with the way Wiz, Jay, and Cypress have already put that distance between them, and so we know why they're putting that distance in between them. That Llama going to be right there, and that's so good for them. Hitting a snipe down to Johnny's going to buy them time to get the Llama.
Yeah, and already the battles over the Llama just showing how valuable the Chug Splash Cannon is, but you really don't want to let that Llama get into the water because there's so much more of a pain to deal with once they're in there. It feels like they move just a little bit quicker. I don't think they actually do, but they do get out of those pieces a little bit more effectively. I mean, just look at that thing. It's running a tarp. Honestly, if you put this thing in the FNCS All-Star Invitational, it probably would have beat Wavy Jacob at this point.
It definitely has got the moves, and they're running out of mats to contain it, and that team is going for them. They're gonna have to get this llama. That's actually I don't know if they're gonna be able to get it. It's gonna get sucked up. They got it in time.
They got it in time, but they got it to the point where there is now 2 other trios who are like, was that a llama that was just swimming out there? They're like, yeah, that was a llama. And look at the bottom right-hand corner of the map. They're trying to get everything associated with it, but now they're just pinned in there. There's one team who's over at the Old Spire already. There's a team who's on the hill who we already know is leaving Old Shark. They don't have a ton of shields. They need to group up together. But additionally, that Chug Splash Cannon doesn't work that great when you're in the water. You need to actually kind of box up one layer above. And given the fact that they haven't been able to invest a ton of hard mats, like, if they get pushed right now, the situation is awful. If they get enough time to kind of get their shields back up and get everyone in HP, they should be fine. But, man, this is balancing on a knife's edge.
They've bought enough time now, it seems, as we're moving over to Retail Row. We don't usually see Retail Row in an off-spawn contestation, but Koya Skadoosh trying to get some shots on these players rotating out towards Caddy. Not going to be able to do so. This is actually another good POI as well, because it's got cabbage spawns in the back areas of some of these houses, so you can see why players are prioritizing it. As well as noms, you're going to get a lot of fruit and vegetables inside of there, just based off of those fruit baskets. And so if you can secure this area, you're good to go. And I like that they're camping the reboot card a little bit. I 100% in a reboot round, don't let that teammate come back into the game at all.
And as we harp on about pretty much every single broadcast, West known for going for just a much higher than average volume of reboots at pretty much all stages of the game, whether it's early or some of the late reboots that we saw in the previous FNCS that led to a key victory royale for one of the trios. I mean, it makes sense to then kind of lay a little bit of an ambush down, particularly if you know you're going to get a 2v3 out of it.
And when it comes down to it, if you can get early game fights like this and you don't have to invest a lot, it's always worth it, especially with where they're located at with relation to the zone. No one's really going to be there. Boz, Leo, and Lucas over here at this farmhouse. This is another one of those areas that you can get a lot of corn and a lot of natural healing just by being here. You see the 2 corn already there on Leo. Honestly, I would have expected them to have maxed out corn by now. Just go over and break some of those little stocks there and you should be good to go. But I like it for them, but I'm worried that, again, they're gonna fall issue to the same thing as before, where they're gonna go for height too early. So do you think they've learned from game number 1 and can adapt it into game number 2?
So my big thing is, if you're going to over index on white heels, like, I feel like you need to way overdo it. Right? Like, as we've seen, like, just a Chug Splash Cannon isn't enough. Like, if you're going to go for it, like, have enough cabbages to be able to get off a double med kit. Like, have enough corn there where you, like, put it in a little area. Like, bring it all together and know that when somebody gets eliminated, mark that spot down on the map. Make sure players are able to rotate there and get back into the zone and just buy extra time. I'm not really seeing that from a lot of these trios, which, yes, you might not get the opportunity to do that every game, but if you get one chance to do that in a reboot round, it feels like that's one of your best opportunities to at least get that W, right? In a game where it's so hard to be able to manufacture a win on a consistent basis. Riverson trying to do it in the wall-to-wall fight here. Lux out being taken down, but there's trios on either side of him. Kenny's going down. Extinct now will be the last one up, and he's disengaged up a level, and this is just chaos.
All around, Halcon will get Lux out up. It looks like Luca providing enough distraction there. Riverson, I think, still down, maybe able to crawl out of those boxes in that awkward situation that they were put into. And if they are, it's going to be that much easier for Extinct to get to them. And don't actually see Extinct anywhere nearby. Just maybe decided to disengage and run away. Javon there trying to find that last player of the trio. That's actually going to be Luca. So Riverson getting finished on off. What can his team do to try to get them back into this game? But Javon, B-Dog, and Osaka really coming in, dominating this third party of a fight and doing well. And you see Extinct already disengaged, does not want any of it. This is going to be the 4th party coming in?
There's always another party. Have you heard of second party? Well, what about third party? And then there's fourth party. You can see Extinct too. is not really leaving the general area. There's still a reboot van over there. There's 4 trios sitting on top of each other. Zone is pretty comfortably in Misty, and you can see Extinct now trying to kind of weasel his way over there a little bit, seeing like, can I dip in and maybe grab something? And boom, yep, that's one card that he's able to grab. I think he might be able to find the other one. He's looking for it right now, getting a little aggressive, and he needs to be careful because he could get dropped in. That's the second card, so he's now managed to get both of the cards, and the question is, can he get out? That's all of his shield, though, and they're going to know that he was the one looking for the cards. And, yeah, a little bit too greedy there. Jiven, B-Dog, and Kosaka, they were waiting in the grass, and they were able to get the ambush out. No scavenger plays for the Rat.
And sometimes there, you've got to go for one, wait a second, and then go for that second. They're going to be looking for you to immediately go for that second one. And if he was able to bait that out just a little bit longer, I think he would have got out alive there. And so we see, unfortunately, they are going to have to wait until next game just to try to get that victory royale. We move over to the middle of the map, though. We've got Jator, Forswear, and Fast Pump Flick, who are making it in towards this mid game and see if they're able to compete for that victory royale. Because again, reminder, we're harping it a lot because it's the only thing that matters, the victory royale. We talked about Jaquan, unfortunately going to go down.
It's going to go down, but not quite finished off yet, so we'll keep an eye kind of on that top left corner. You can see everyone getting to move a little bit farther south. We are getting that pull on the zone. You can see Jotter tagging out a set of minis there. You can see not a ton of excess utility right now, and they definitely need some builds as there is some swinging going on onto the shipping crates, as well as the RV over there will get the bonus. But Jotter needs to be careful. He's straying a little far away. He is able to kind of snag those minis and get off and disengage that bridge. It's a valuable position. But, hey, Jaquan back up on his feet. FGAA, Ugly Gremlin, they're just trying to get out of dodge and rotate away because there is still just this stack of players on top of each other. I mean, we tuned this fight earlier on, but Flaws, Lucas, and Leo trying to get out of dodge. Luckily, right now, it is only that one-tick zone, and all these players are more than comfortable to just hang out, go find either one of those campfires, use the exotic chug splash cannon, ideally not really dipping into any of their excess and finite healing supply.
Look at Leo, Lucas, and Flazzo. They were going for a cutoff route there on the teams rotating in, but don't realize that everyone already rotated around. There's a campfire on this rotation if they can find it there. And if it's not already used, it may have already been. I think I see a med kit down over there as well. They'd be able to find it and grab that over for Ugly Gremlin. They will. Jaquan is going to spot it out there, so that'll be great healing for them. And if they keep going down, they'll find that campfire. Honestly, we talk about min-maxing, 100%. It's very easy to relight it, but if you're walking by these campfires in these reboot rounds and you're not using them, you need to start using them.
Oh yeah, just burn them. Fire and forget. We've talked about it before, but resource denial is one of the things I think competitive Fortnite pros don't do enough of. Like, yes, simply because you can't carry it doesn't mean that somebody else should be able to get it. Like, throw a cone over that big pot. Go chuck it into Narnia. Throw it into a bush. Throw it into a cornfield. Just put it somewhere where somebody shouldn't be looking for it. Don't just leave loot laying around in the open. Yes, you might not need to break that slurp truck, but why would you give an entire team a refresh if they're rotating through later on? No, hop into the driver's seat, back over it real quick. It takes an extra 0.2 seconds to be able to pop it off, but then potentially you've messed with somebody else's game, which gives you a better chance to be able to take the W away. However, you need to be doing it in such a way that you're also enabling yourself to be successful, because in the reboot, it doesn't matter how much you're able to deny another team if you're not setting yourself up to be able to take home the W. And right now, Lucas, Flaws, and Leo, 188 below, they're just hopping straight in, and that was the entire shot from Lucas there with just the green pump, hitting a 161 flick as well. Turnaround gets a 56 damage shot. Should be able to close this out as they're just relentlessly pushing.
They need to, though. Finally getting back up above. Mudio trying to just run away. You see Sir Brian crawling away. They are going to get that elimination. That'll be good, as the Parasite is going to come through. And, you know, Parasites right now in the reboot, not that big of an issue. But you're going to have to eventually get, I would say, take that off as soon as you can. Just because, yes, it's going to give you that little bit extra. But we talk about White Hills being so important. It seems like a lot of the regions they are today But I'm interested to see if West hold true to its aggressive nature in these last little moments, because right now they are.
I think we get a heal off in 2 of the remaining 3 games, but I don't think we get like the ridiculous NAE's like minute-long heal off. I think we get kind of the more typical med kit and a little bit of chug slash. Maybe we get somebody cheekily getting kind of one of those cabbage into a later med kit plays and just barely getting it away. But even just casually looking at all the loadouts we've seen from some of these players, some of these trios, nobody has really been like super investing into those white heals. Like, we're not seeing anybody who's carrying just an AR or shotgun and then entirely white heals, as we've seen in some of the other regions. Like, it's a couple floppers here, it's a med kit there, maybe a chug splash cannon. But honestly, compared to a lot of the other matches I watched today and VOD reviewed, West is playing this a little bit more straight up and kind of sticking to their, like, hey, why do we need to adjust our style? A lot of these trios in particular, like, reboot rounds are a little funky in the regard that almost all of the top trios have already qualified through to the finals. So reboot rounds is this mix of all of these trios who are like just outside of that really top group. Like, again, they're still way better than myself, Clay, even you. Like, these guys are the best of the best, right? Like, they're disgusting. But like this group in particular, there's some of these trios who know that they can go aggressive at certain points. And this is the first time we've seen 30 cabbages in inventory, right?
You talked about going overboard. That is definitely where the mindset needs to be. Their center zone, they've got 30 cabbages. I want to see the rest of the inventory if Optidog, if Yasir does have a chug cannon, because in all honesty, if you've got 30 cabbages, a chug cannon, and a med kit, if you can just get to zone number 9, there's no reason you haven't done enough to get yourself in. It seems like they do have a chug cannon, in fact, and I'm sure Optidog has a med kit there. You see, you're going to have that chug cannon there for them. So everything is looking good, but can they get there?
Yeah, so if Optidog has 2 medkits, they are set up to realistically get off 2. If they split heals correctly, maybe 3 medkits. I think you could get the second player to potentially... No, that's a farce. That's a lie. That would take probably too many cabbages from the other one. But they definitely have enough to be able to guarantee at least 2 medkits going through. Maybe 3 if the one player with the cabbages really ends up just decimating them through. But we're out of the situation. They're center zone right now. We're over in the Lacey Lake area. They pulled pretty much center zone right on top of their heads. They don't have to go anywhere. They're just chilling.
What a good zone for them to get, but they don't have a lot of maps. That's what I'm worried about with them. 64 here on DL. They're trying to base up as much as they can and just establish that area, but look, even building out of that wood there is going to cost them so much.
Yeah, and you can see they already don't necessarily have a ton of builds. They're not built up around anything. Yes, they are on one of those natural high grounds, but there's nothing for them to very quickly refarm. So despite their white heals looking really solid in that situation, I'm not super confident that they're, without a refresh, that they're going to be able to kind of take the high ground. So now we get our nice little typical tour of the lobby, figure out who's based up around who needs to rotate, who needs to move, maybe who's under a little bit too much fire. And you can see right now that pretty much everyone is hip to hip with their trio, and nobody's really under a ton of pressure. It's a lot of people just playing it safe because there's no real reason to be sticking your necks out.
Sean Franklin has the high ground in one angle, Lucas has it in another, and right in the middle of the team with all the cabbages, it seems like they've got more corn as well, and the med kids, so they are invested. They are here for the heal up. That is what they're playing for. That is their game plan. They just don't really seem to have the builds to get there. They may, with where the zone's pulling and not having to invest right now, still going for these tags will net them some extra shield. And may be able to grab that loot on rotation, but for them right now, this is really risky to be going for these peaks.
Yeah, Optidog, right as you say, it's really risky. Optidog gets a nice little warning shot fired right past his ear. He's like, maybe I should close that door there. As we get a little bit of a catch-up going through, everyone firing away the shots, and they definitely, with the amount of corn that's there, if they properly distribute out all of their fruits and veggies with the chug splash cannon and the 3 med kits, they have enough to get off triple med kits. The question is, can they get there? As we see, Ordeps, Devour Evolve, Vicky Gonzalez trying to do their best to get in, but right now, team's doing a very good job of putting pressure, getting a gatekeeping on these late rotators. Ordeps taking a ton of danger, and you can see iDrop's forced to early pad as well over towards the side, and unfortunately, he makes the wrong decision as zone pulls about as far opposite as possible from him.
That is so unfortunate. You go for that pad just to try to get out of the situation, and now 315 below, there's not really an opportunity for them to get anything. Maybe able to get into the box to get some damage. No, just gonna go down. That's gonna be easy loot for Poyo, Moose, and Carp in that box. That's just unfortunate. You try to do anything you can in that moment, and unfortunately it's not enough. They do have a couple more games to go though. Moving back over, Sean Franklin, Funky, Microwave, and Tided Technique looking so good. They're even going to reinforce that base because it was built out a little bit there, and they are going to pull it. But again, when you invest this early, you've got to always wonder, is it worth it?
No, you know what? I believe in the Cinderella run because this was the team who qualified in like absolute last game to make heats, right? Last game to make the reboot round opportunity through here. And it just like, it feels like they're destined to make it to Grands and to just have the opportunity and to like play in the finals. And it doesn't matter if Funky Microwave was heating up some tuna at lunch. Like, it doesn't matter how bad he smells. They were capable of getting the key victory royales when they need it. They've stepped up and done the absolute bare minimum to make it there. But right now, quick stat left-hand side, Cabbage carried in players' inventory goes up over 2,000% during the reboot rounds. The Cabbage man, business is booming if you sell cabbages during the reboot round. And you can see the Optidog and Co going to be able to not only get the knock, but they're going to yeet them all the way back, going to secure that. And the reason for doing that is to make sure you get all of those heals in a spot you feel comfortable. We see now where the full moving zones are going. We're going up into the north. There's some decent changes in verticality going through, but nothing too rough. And honestly, this is where things are going to get very interesting.
They've got a launch pad to use, dropping extra little bit of mats over. That is great for them because we talked about we're struggling on it. This would be good overall, no matter what. They're going to build out there for Poyo, Carp, and Moose. Yasir will build out as well. They're going out on a whim, but luckily for them, it's going to be really hard to chop down. And look at Tided Technique, Franklin, and Funky Microwave. You said this is the Cinderella story. Let's see if they can hold on. They have to be careful for high ground retakes. This is the round. These are the ones you will see. Launch pads to high ground are going to come out. It doesn't happen in the 6-game series, but here it will. They have to be ready for it.
Yeah, they're so high up. They're literally like 6 or 7 tiles above even the highest other level, and it's dropping down. So they're able to rotate late. They're picking up a ton of eliminations, but again, the elims don't matter. So our high ground team, they're currently up on the top part of the screen, and they're getting PG'd for height right away. You can see Tided Technique going down. Sean Franklin also being forced off here. Funky Microwave with only 61 builds. He's going to be forced to kind of drop down. You see bottom left-hand corner, Carp trying to get some shots. We're going to hop on board with Mr. Microwave. Tuna himself trying to push through and trying to find a little bit of space, rocking with the Alpine Ace. But the question is, will he be able to keep his shoelaces from getting tied up? He doesn't want to trip and fall here, as they've had plenty of area to work with. But the question is, can they find the refresh they need, as a knock does end up coming through, which not necessarily sure where he got that. That could have been Storm helping him out, as Sean Franklin does end up going down, and Funky Microwave is all by himself. Finds a huge 117 tag on the outside, but then immediately gets cut off. Has 9 builds. He will get the knock there. That was the one he saw before. Is in a cone, and he's put away. As up on the high ground, they had a victory royale in the semifinals to push himself through. It is one of the highest elim ones, and currently they hold control. It's France, Blakeyco, and Sharp, but just below them you have Skadoosh and Godcoin. Right as I say that, Goon, Zarez, and Triggy launch pads from the backside of the zone to try and take it away. Lucks out, recognize that there's a fight going on there. He's going to drop down himself as Carp ends up picking up a pair on the logo, and there's a fight for height, but everyone is way overinvested, and Playco did not cover his feet. He falls down. The myth damage confirming there as Triggy and Zarez and Goon took away height, but they took so much damage in order to do it.
No builds remaining there as they drop down, try to catch what you can't catch. We've got nothing left to go off of B-Dog. Javon still down here trying to make something happen with 3 builds remaining now. 2 here for Javon. Can they find anything to play on the backside? That's going to be a chug cannon. Rimuru going to go down. Can they find it? Floppers there as well. That is the player you needed to eliminate on the backside of the zone if you wanted a chance. Javon will continue to tarp their way on through. Luckily, it's going through already built areas, so they can save a little bit there on materials. Can they find any sort of ground, though? The chug cannon going to be used. They need to wait a little bit longer for that to recharge. Now, 1 minute and 27 seconds left before this game is done, and they are trying to push aggressively. They want this slow gun. That player on the other side is just running away into the old builds. His teammates going to find him. Another chug cannon going to be there. Another elimination as well. They may take this just from slaying out the low ground. Who's on high ground? I don't know if it's a full trio remaining up there. It seems like they're having their own problem, and look at low ground, it's just being secured.
Yeah, FJAA and Ugly Gremlin were just straight up PJing with Goonbro and co, and they were just trying up on the high ground, but it didn't matter. Low ground, they just get to hang out. They get a 3v1. They got all the fish. They got the chug splash cannons. They have all the control. They know this player's here, but can the player pull a Sprite? It's 1v3 for a final shot. Goonbro versus B-Dog, Jivan, and Kosaka, and Goonbro is going to need the play of his life. It's an epic pump. It's 8 builds against the world, and I'm telling you, the world is looking good. Jivan, Kosaka, and B-Dog, they stamped their ticket with 11 elims in the Victory Royale in match number 2.
What a great win. Sometimes it, again, 2 times it has not gone to a heel off here in NA West. Everyone is just playing for the aggressive Victory Royale. And with 2 more to go, we'll see if that heel off does come, because right now everyone's playing for it, but it's not going there.
Well, I think the one thing that's very different from the games we saw is people are over-indexing up on that height play, but it's not on us to break it down. It is on Zeke, Kelly, and Panda. Take it away.
Thank you guys so much, you incredible human beings. I started with the finger guns. I will also end with the finger guns. Okay, that was a crazy game, and again, we're not seeing the heal off. It's perfect. It's executing. It's not allowing what we saw in NA East to happen again. No, they're taking the onus into their own hands, and Kelly, that's exactly what they need to do.
I mean, I think, I want to call him Cam every time. Sundown said it best, that Zeras, Triggy, and Goon, they had height there, but they kind of focused too much on it. They weren't really aware of their surroundings, and then that's when FJA and Ugly Gremlin, they faced off each other, where Jivan's team just kind of held the bottom and was able to walk into that VR pretty easily.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, in the semifinals, they actually placed 16th. So they just made it into the reboot round, and they're able to take game 2 of the Victory Royale. So that is going to be huge for them.
Looking at this, though, chasing that llama because they know a coveted chug cannon might be in there, and if they want to make it into the end game, even if it hasn't gone down to a heal off, we have seen so many people using the chug cannon just to make sure that they're at full health towards the end of the game there. But Cypher J there grabbing a great snipe, but we have to, of course, focus on the team that grabbed that Victory Royale with, again, 11 eliminations. I was not expecting to see every team get the VR, grab so many elims, but that top qual finish 18th in the heat that we saw yesterday. They got 16th, and they've only been to the FNCS Finals 1. But that number 1 is going to be changing to a number 2 because we're going to be seeing them next week.
Well, actually, so for Kosaka and B-Dog, this is going to be their first finals. So Jivan has experienced the FNCS Finals, has some experience for the team, is going to help bring them into a solid performance coming into next weekend. But Kosaka, B-Dog, they are new. They're going to be new to the experience, so that's even more exciting, right? To come back from a 16th place yesterday into game 2 Victory Royale, that's going to be massive.
We have to look at the highlights, though, because there was a moment where we saw Riverson uncontested. Maybe this was going to be their game, but then they rotated to Misty Meadows and faced against 4 other teams. It kind of reminded of what happened during heat number 3, but we have to look at Goon right here. Player solo with Triggy and Zeras down, having to take down Jivan's team, but look, they were on the low ground. They held it so strong. They stayed as a team. They also had a lot of heal off opportunities right here, so they weren't really ever in a place where they were worried they were going to lose.
Yeah, and if you watch what they were playing, they were never truly playing for the heal off. They wanted to be the aggressors. They wanted to solidify that win without having to rely on anything in their inventory other than those weapons that they used to get those eliminations.
You have to, right? Like, that's the only way this is going to work, because I'm telling you, if we push it to heal off, chaos will happen. Now, we only have 2 more games left, okay? That means we only have 2 more spots left on the Battle Bus heading toward finals. Guys, which of these trios do we think can make it? Is Riversaw one of these trios? Can he go the distance? Is it someone else? What are we thinking?
Well, I was just mentioning it and hoping that we would see it in the highlight reel where they finally have their spot uncontested, but then they went over to Misty Meadows. There was a way too long of a fight for any of these teams here, Panda, and I think that they just should have disengaged. They should have left because the zone ended up near Lazy Lake. They would have had the prime spot to just grab that VR if they were a little bit passive, and I'm honestly surprised of how aggressive these teams are playing. I think maybe they're hoping that once they down a team, they're going to find med kits, they're going to find those coveted cabbages, but maybe back off a little bit because you need to make it to the end game.
Well, especially in that engagement, because we saw where zone pooled. They obviously, if they had stayed in Lazy Lake, it would have pooled in their favor. But with them going to Misty Meadows, I guess their thought process was they needed those Storm Surge tags, and since they weren't going to have it at an uncontested drop spot, they had to find it somewhere else. But they weren't the only team thinking that. With 4 teams in total rotating through Misty Meadows, it became a spectacle, to say the least. And unfortunately, it's what caused Extinct Kenny's and Riverson to go down. But they know this now. They know how to come back from adversity. We've seen it time and time again. We saw it in the qualifier weeks. And honestly, that's what they need to do. They have 2 more opportunities to walk away with the Victory Royale, but that's also 2 other opportunities for one of these other teams too to step up. So it's not going to be easy, not easy at all, but it's going to be exciting to watch, to say the least.
That's all we can do, Matt, is just try to be better than we were yesterday. So we got to try our very best. Now, of course, guys, we're about to jump aboard the Battle Bus. Don't forget, watch.fortnite.com. Great place to do this, do some trivia, do some leaderboards. Boom, all the things. But you heard it, the bus driver is ready to go. We're coming, brother. Let's get back over. We got Clay and Sundown standing by. Let's do game number 3.
You know, as someone once said, I want to be the very best that no one ever was. And that's what these trios are trying to do with 2 more matches left. We've seen 2 victory royales come down to trios who have been able to keep their discipline, stay hip to hip, and close it out together. Will that remain the story? And will the shenanigans with the high ground retakes continue in what is a very much un-NA West fashion, Clay?
Have to see the Orchard going to be where a lot of players are focused right now. If they're going for that heal off, this team looking like they're going up for this IO base and weather station draw. We'll see if it pans out yet again for them getting close to it. That'll be the question. Again, reminder, it's all about the victory round. You see right there, there's a llama.
Llama 210. Make sure you get your piece control up or hit it with one of those cars. Get the stun out. Get the chug splash cannon. Get that nice little influx of ammo and loots. And honestly, take it as kind of a stepping stone into the mid game. That plus all of the chests that can come through in the area, the static launchpad, it makes it just one of the strongest areas on the map. It's something we've talked about in Kinetic Technique, Funky Microwave, Sean Franklin, just trying to get through, loot up everything we can. We've saw them be able to kind of take the early high ground, but as we talked about at the start of the show, or I talked about, I mean, NA West is typically known for, hey, whoever gets high ground in the 5th zone, go ahead, it's yours, have fun. Like, nobody typically tends to look up or really contest with it, right? But that hasn't been the case today.
It hasn't, and I'm intrigued to see if it will be the case at all with the way the trend has been going and ending before that 9th zone is even finished closing there. Rimuru going to go down, launch pad, or rather Llama going to be acquired this launch pad over there, though. Will be so useful for them to keep this rotation going. And again, we talk about min-maxing. This is one of the beautiful examples of doing so.
Yeah, using that Moo balloon to rotate across. Of course, that is the inflatable. One shot will take it down, and you do take fall damage, but when you're just kind of zipping around the area, nobody's too worried about that, and you also don't have to stay too far off the ground to kind of keep that maximum amount of momentum. So nice little min-max route, as again, we see Jaquan also hopping into just one of those trucks real quick to kind of move along, break some of the resources around here, and make sure he gets to the area, because not necessarily the fastest place to loot if you're just running around the entire time, but you You hop in one of those boats, hop in one of the cars, and it makes it just a little bit more efficient.
Will they get their opportunity at the story that they've been going for here with Ugly Gremlin, Jaquan, and FJ? They were so close. As Lucas is bad, and Leo going to go down there, getting finished on off as well. What can Flaws do? Is Leo going to get taken down there? I was going to say flawed out, but that didn't really make that much sense there in the grand scheme of it all. As we move back over, we get to see Sharp, Blako, and France, who were on the high ground again, invested just a little bit too early last round. Let's see if they can learn from that mistake and take it at the right time. As a gas can going to come through all the way. Nice shots there from France. That's beautiful. They're going to go for the gas can spray again, coming from another angle. So many gas cans used, and look at Sir Brian going to go down. Angel going to get taken down pretty low as well. Mudio trying to make something happen, trying to push that aggression on to France. They're going to go through, but a big tag going to come through, 161. And just like that, they took out that trio so quickly.
That was great defensive fighting there from France. He got that shot off and was able to immediately throw the ramp right up in his face while also disengaging one grid space over. And despite a nice push there from Mudio to kind of take out the entirety of the shield, just didn't have the ability or time to close that out. I mean, with the defensive tactic as well, very well played. We're going to swing on over. We can see Remzi and his trio just kind of getting his way through. Flimsy, I apologize there. Or yeah, Remzi and Flimsy. And extra QD right there. You can see them getting their way around Weeping. They got those chonkered up whip as well. Just trying to see what's looking around here. And honestly, dipping into the basement is probably a good decision because there is nowhere anywhere nearby. And they need to get some metal. There's some pretty efficient fence posts you can hit down there. That's what Cute's doing. And Flaw is being taken out in the feed.
Unfortunate there for them, but look, first one's already just now beginning to move. 77 players. This is a very aggressive set of games today.
Yeah, don't forget our two teams who have one are removed from the pool. And just one other note, Remzi hitting those kind of old tomato head and the burger head over there. That's one of the most efficient spots for metal on the entire map. Those two combined, I believe, are like 280 to like 298 metal between the two of them. It just, if you are able to pass through and they're there, it's one of the best spots you can hit on the map. So just a nice little, if any of your games you need metal very quickly, it can be annoying to farm, make sure you head out there. It's just slightly northwest of Weeping.
And Weeping, honestly, I think kind of a sleeper drop spot during the reboot round, just with the amount of heals that you can actually get from it, with all of those ice boxes there, the fishing holes, as well as we move over to Believer Beach, which seems like every match that we've watched on Sweaty, or sorry, in NA West, even when it was Sweaty, has had some sort of fight, unless it's when Arkham, Epicwell, and Rex are there, as everyone's starting to go on down. Yumi trying to make enough space there for Jay to get picked back up there. Rather, Mobruto making that space so Yumi can pick him up, but the spray going to continue to come through. And a third party, and now a fourth party coming through. This is just like we saw, the fight we saw over in Misty, but they're going to get all chopped down, and everyone's going to have to rebuild and replay this entire fight.
And you can see that Zares, Gunvo, and Triggy coming in from the top part of the map. Mabruto getting the finish, but needs to try and get the revive onto Jay the Hunt. You can see Rizzle X Yumi doing his best to kind of disengage the situation, but high ground has been given over. Zares, Gunvo, and Triggy just ripping that away. Mabruto, see, just giving up the entire Space City, desperately trying to just get away, putting space between them, but it is just Rizzle X Yumi who's left with 17 HP, and I'd say he had a dream, but it was more of a nightmare, as only one more game, one more opportunity will be left for them to salvage their season. And Twitch AO Hex, I mean, I don't know who's watching you sit in the cone right now, but it's probably the best decision, as Gunvo and co. They smell blood in the water there over by the pier. So you can see Alapapa skills, Fraga Tirapon able to pick up 2 eliminations as well, trying to get the pressure and refarm up the mats at one of these satellite dishes down on the southwestern corner, and they're going to be happy with that haul, my lord.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that player had so many mats on them when they went down, and that's honestly exactly where they need to be. They've got basically max materials, they can farm extra, build up, they don't have to leave here for a little while. And I was gonna say, I wanted them to pick up that pistol, because anytime you can have one of those epic or legendary pistols in your inventory and split that ammo count up, it's just so much more beneficial for your teammates.
And Hex still just chilling. doing his best. Think this is the right decision. Obviously, he could also potentially hit one of the reboots on the rotation out, but I think Triggy and Zarazako know he's here. However, based on how he's playing it, either he has some white HP or, yep, he's just gone fishing, hoping that he'll be able to pull a flop or some form of bonus HP. And at that point, that's the worst thing you can say. Pop a bandage, son, and he will do that. It's the correct play right now in this circumstance, unlike when I screamed at Zexo to do so. Yes, I was wrong. I'll admit it every single time when you ask me, even though I defended myself in that moment. And you can see, oh my, the poor soul. It's 2 fishing pods, and you get a shield fish and a sniper. The odds on getting no HP from 2 fishing spots is actually very low. And we'll see if he goes 3 for 3 there. And unfortunately, it is just a jellyfish. That's 20 effective HP and another weapon pull. And AO Hex, it might be Hexed himself.
That's truly unfortunate because it's just, you're there during that moment. You're like, I've got to get a fish, at least a flopper or maybe one of the small fries there. And he pulls an AR as well. Come on, one more here. No, he's got another opportunity there to try to go for one, but it's just going to go to try to find anything left inside of Believer Beach. He can get some coconuts there as well if he hits the trees down, but it's going to be really hard. And if he may be able to get a chest out of there, he will. Let's see what he gets out of it. Hopefully a med kit.
Come on. Come on. Hopefully a med kit, he drops right on top of one, but he needs to be careful. It is only that 1 tick zone right now. It's going to swap over to 2 tick, and we talk about min-maxing all the time there. In that circumstance, I don't think you pop the med kit. I think you need the extra 12 seconds on it. You could do a boat rotation path now. The one kind of disadvantage of the fact that, yes, I was just about to say, I think rather than actually using the fishing rod just to save time, boat fish there on the path to get a higher chance of just dropping out those small fries as opposed to anything else. But it's still very difficult now, as we'll keep him in the back of our mind. But Hex is definitely a footnote in this game as far as I'm concerned, unless he's able to show us otherwise. FJA, Ugly Gremlin, boxed by Jaquan. They were so close yesterday trying to close it out. They've been so close today as well. It's finished in the top 6 in each of the first 2 games, but they haven't made it to that BR. So in a consistency format, hey, they probably could be up towards the top there. But right now, 0 points, because all that matters is the W.
Ooh. And honestly, I think they could get it with their way their loadout is looking. If they see what Ugly Gremlin and Jaquan can get in their inventory, if they have any extra white heals, if they got that chug cannon, if they've got some cabbages, a med kit, or some fish there, because with that loadout just there by FJ, it's going to be so good. And oh, wait a minute, Hex finding more and more bandages, actually max on bandages. Can they get out? And if those slurp barrels are still there, no, they're going to find some corn on the way through. Okay, they're right on the edge of zone. They do have a reboot card as well. It's not as bad as it could have been.
I mean, this is super familiar. This is how I play pretty much the entirety of my arena games. I do a fishing route. I hang out on the outside. And then I come flying into the zone with like a flopper, a med kit, maybe a shotgun, maybe an AR, but sometimes even just builds. When he's got a whole bunch of med kits hanging out back there. This is one of the times when I used to talk about resource denial and one of your abilities to really get through. And he honestly might just look to set up for a heal off strat. I'm not sure if he has the ability to collect it all now, but it seemed like that's what he's going for. So rather than just making that a little footnote, that's going to be an asterisk instead, where we're going to keep an eye on Hex, because if he is able to hang out there and just wrangle up enough, I'm not sure one person can do it efficiently to kind of keep him up, but he could kind of just pop off that reboot real quick, have his teammate run around, give him some extra heals, and they might be able to pull off something cheeky.
It's a long shot, but it's there. There's always a possibility here in NA West for things like that to happen. And with Funky Microwave, Sean Franklin, and Tilted Techniques setting up again on one of these IO satellite dishes where they've been before, being in such a good spot as well. They've got cabbages there here. With 69 players, I still don't think it's going to go to the heal off.
We've seen it in the first 2 games where teams have tried to get a little bit in there in terms of getting the heals, but reality of the situation is the ones who played it to stay with their trios, either work top down or control the high ground, have been the ones who have made it to those final moments. And right now, Title Technique, Funky Microwave, and Sean Franklin, yet again, something they've done very well is kind of position towards these natural high grounds and kind of working their way through the resources. I think the one thing, if they could manage their resources a little bit better in that 4th to 5th zone, they'd be very legitimate threats, but it's not to say they aren't capable of winning a game. As we saw in match number 6 yesterday, they're trying to make that miracle run all the way through, and right now it's not looking too awful. But the one thing I do have to note is these launch pads are very high simply because of that change in verticality when you are forced to pop it, and you can all of a sudden get picked out of the air very quickly. These players are very good. Their aim is very strong, and right now you can see a Dragacoin glider not taking or drawing any fire, so he's going to feel pretty good about that. As for Riversound, Kenny's, and Extinctus, they are right in the middle of the zone with plenty of fish.
This is where we want to see them. I'd love to see the rest of the inventory here on Extinct and Riversound just to see what they're holding for this. And they could, again, we've predicted them. I think almost everyone had them at least once in their predictions today to make it to finals. There we go. Riversound's got that chug cannon, so they can play for that heal up if they want to. Everything looks good. They've got a decent amount of mats for where they are in the zone. If they were and they've got medkits as well, so they've set up well for that. If they were on the edge of zone with this many mats, I'd be a little bit more worried, but because of being almost center, this is great for them.
Yeah, they're just hanging out, and I mean, given the change in verticality in this area outside of the hydro itself, there really isn't a ton. Yes, there's a couple berms kind of as you exit towards the northern side, but we're still going to have one more interior zone. And with that being the case and most of those swamps being in play, these guys are set up pretty solidly for it. We saw plenty of fish. We see 3 med kits. However, we don't see some of the heals that could enable one of the double med kit play. So even with the peppers for the rotation, without a chug splash cannon or without at least 4 cabbages, you're not able to get off that double med. And boom, as I say that, Riversound's like, don't worry, Sundown, I got you. He's carrying the exotic chug splash cannon.
Still somehow alive and able to make it in. He is going to get tagged up. But in all honesty, from what X had to go through, they're doing okay. They've got the opportunity to go for the heal off with that med kit. They don't have another teammate to help them out with a chug cannon or floppers or anything like that. But they're still here. They still have a fighting chance.
Dun, 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 dun. He's just trying to sneak around the outside, doing everything he can. It's a man on a mission, and it might seem impossible, but AO, heck, nope, never mind. I was about to get into monologue form, and yeah, that little asterisk, we can erase it. We can just remove it from the game. Hex, you put up a valiant effort, but unfortunately, it meant absolutely nothing. Good luck, have fun, go next. As we go on to the next trio we're watching, looks like Endless did in fact end there as just Kenny's, Riversound, and HZ Instinct just on the very outside of the zone. So they're going to be really happy with that pull. Observers show us where that 4th zone is. And as I talk about there not really being a ton of verticality changes that was in play, zone pull is pretty much smack dab on top of the only verticality changes that were in play. So just ignore what I said. As in fact, Kenny's actually catches a bullet with his teeth. He says, "Get down, Mr. President, I got you." And that's going to eat into at least 1 med kit. Is now Extinct. It's going to be put on guard duty. He's going to try and hold at least 1 wall as the firing shots are coming in from not only 1 trio, but it looks like a 2nd trio is getting involved.
I think they have the time to go for the heal there. Kidneys will be picked back up, and luckily for them, they don't have to invest any heals into this other than the chug cannon. They're going to use that med kit, and I say just wait on that one a little bit. Use that chug cannon right now. They'll throw a couple minis his way, but this is an interesting one. They're going to make that rotation, though, just barely in, and if it pulls up here for them, it's going to be in such an awkward spot for them to try to make it in. They really have to hope they get zoned, because look at how many teams are going to gatekeep them.
Yeah, it's honestly, I talked about this area being good for them. I lied. Him catching that headshot bullet and then drawing the shots from the two teams who are posted up centrally and on top of the natural high grounds. It's really difficult for them. And in fact, what they've done instead is actually about face and have started putting pressure on the other team behind them, trying to bait the people who are in between, being like, no, don't shoot at us. We're already in the safe zone. Our builds have already finished. Shoot at these other guys that we're also shooting at. And you can see Yasir, OptiDog trying to put the pressure on him as they're only 25 damage above, and this is going to be a brutal Storm Surge as 17 players need to go down.
Finally, we'll get to see it here. Everyone playing passively. Look at OptiDog, Yasir, and TL. They may have a lot of the setup, but they're below now as they were above, and then, oh no, all of a sudden they're going to have to try to find some sort of tags. They're going in, and they won it. Look, they got caught sleeping. The team is not even paying attention.
A drop down right on top of his head like Santa down the chimney, and they came bearing gifts instead. It was a shotgun to the teeth, and then, excuse me, is that the mythic pulse rifle that he's rocking there? Have we seen that? Period? This season? That's got to be a first, right? But he was able to hit the shot and then just swap to the hip fire, and it is Clay.
It is indeed, and we saw the buff that went through, and that was just disgusting.
Dropping right down, and that's one thing with that pulse rifle, with the addition of the change, the fact that it is the mythic variant, if you're able to just get up into the face and able to just spray away with that, like, that is bonkers. I'm just shocked, because again, I didn't think it was even viable to end up being able to grab that in competitive play, but right now we can see Storm Surge is hammering through. We talked about that just being such a pain, and right now Extinct, Riverson, and Kenny's, hey, if they don't want their tournament ending right here, right now, they need to start finding shots. They need to go. We talked about them being set up and then having all the heals in the world. Well, all the heals in the world aren't going to be able to combat 25 damage every 5 seconds. Yes, cover yourself up, but you need to find the AR shots, and right now, they aren't there. One of the favorites contested every single week at Lazy Lake. They finally have Lazy to themselves, but they are falling short as Surge is proving to be a problem. Nobody near them. Can they get wall to wall? Can Riverson, the veteran, save them? And as I talk about it, they get a reprieve as Storm Surge turns off. We have our top 50, and Riverson and Co. breathe a sigh of relief, but all the utility is gone.
Still have that chug cannon, but it's not going to be enough at this point to get them to where they need to go. Riverson really going to have to lead the team to a great play. They're using a lot to get back into the Sean Franklin. In the meantime, is fighting another elimination, and it's going up again. Another change of elevation. It literally could have gone any other way, and it wouldn't have been as drastic, but it's going up already on top of the hill. It's going to go back towards that dam as well, and if it comes back, it's going to be even more drastic changes.
High pad right now. If you're on the backside of that zone, you high pad right now, or you are playing in match number 4. No decision. Like, this is way too brutal. It's going to be way too much of a mat investment, too much of a raw HP investment. I mean, Instant, Kenny's, and Riverson are trying to get up there, but if there's even one trio who just about faces and looks at, you can see how Luca and Lux out have the ability. Remzi, Guy Aiden, Yoris, and Co, they get it. They're high padding. They're trying to get to the front side of the zone. But look at this. There is nobody on the front side of the zone. That is how far that zone pulled away. Riverson, Extinct, and Kenny's, they're hip to hip, they're wall to wall, they're box to box. There's another trio directly on top of them, but who's on the opposite side? Azarez ends up going down to the storm. So does Tysco, who got a key VR yesterday to even push through to here, but they've had a rough day so far today. You can see extra QED able to pick up a knock onto Moose. Extinct, Riverson, and Kenny's just side by side, looking like miners in the gold rush, breaking through as much metal as they can, just swinging their pickaxes, swinging their bats. Now they're trying to get wall to wall. They're dropping down on the low ground, hip to hip. Can they find it? They know this is the recipe, but Riverson goes down. They get the knock, but it's Yasir on the other side. That's a chug splash cannon that comes with it. The question is, can they get Riverson up? They get the space. They get a second knock to go with it. That's 2 finishes that was there. Only one of them is theirs, but it doesn't matter because they get the resources.
They're carrying him.
They put Riverson on his back, but they get dropped down. If somebody's on your back, you can't be shooting your gun. Extinct desperately trying to 360 his way around to create enough room. Kenny's drops Riverson. He says, nope, we're going to have to do it as a duo as the zone pulls north and away yet again.
This is going to be hard. They go for the launch pad, but it's going to be scuffed. They hit their head. They can't go anywhere. Extinct is alive purely based on the chug cannon. Kenny's going to go down. Extinct has to get through. The edit's not going to be there. The tree in the way. Can they find the layers? They can. Do they have any more charges in that chug cannon? I don't know if they do. Yoris going to go down. Kenny's now going to be finished off 15 HP. A lot of builds still remaining. They're doing so well. The edits are there, but just one shot from any weapon right now will take them down. Medkit going to try to be popped here. Do they have enough time? It needs to get down to that 30 seconds there for them. They will get it off. It seems like the time has been made, but it's going up again. They don't have time to sit here and wait. He's trying to go out and around, maybe able to get in there, running out of builds. No, still got a good amount there, still making it in. They have a little bit left in them, but what can they find?
Yeah, we got the solo run there, but the question is, yes, thank you, observers. Show us the high ground shenanigans. NA West isn't known for it, but you see the launch pads. You see the moon balloons and Remzi and Flumsy up on the high ground trying to work top to bottom. But realistically, keep an eye on Ugly Gremlin, FJA, and Jaquan. They've made top 6 every time. They're on the front of the zone. They're going up for the high ground right now. Jaquan takes away the high ground. This is zone number 8. We're still pulling to the northeast. We're still going up the hill. Final zone in 10 seconds, but FJA, Ugly Gremlin, Jaquan, they're all on top of each other right now. Only one Elam, but a legendary loadout plus the epic burst from FJA will let him rain shots down below. Cutie Pyro goes down. Salco on the front side of the zone of Pyro fan. As we continue pulling to the northeast, this zone started all the way down in Slurpee. We're practically in the middle of the map. Hello?
And they're the only full trio left standing up above. If they can get any sort of pressure down, they're going to win just by being up. They have the advantage. They can just keep spraying. You see, I don't know their mat count though. DL with Cabbages and the Chug Cannon can make a play for the heal off, but there's still a minute left on the zone. They're gonna have to try to survive for so much longer. They don't really have much builds. 1 build remaining. They don't have it. The pressure is there. They're starting to drop on down. It's a 3v2v1. DL really needs to hop back in the zone now and try to make a play to retake high ground. If they want anything at all, I think that's what they're going for. Cabbages are being popped. Chuck Cannon being used. FJ trying to drop on down there with Ugly Gremlin, Salco, and Pyro just going to get pinched there. They're going to go down, and it's only DL on the backside. Goes for the high ground play, but FJ says no. Swats him out of the air. They pick up the victory round. They're going straight through the final.
So close in the first 2 games. They were top 7 yesterday. Top 6 went on. They were top 6 for the first 2 matches today. But in match number 3, in what is one of the most absurd pulls of the moving zones, all the way from Slurpee to the middle of the map, Ugly Gremlin, FJ, and his trio mate able to take it away there. And I mean, a brilliant finish.
It was indeed. And now we've got one more game left to see who makes it to that finals. Will it be a heal up or will it be an aggressive game for NA West? That's coming up next. But first, we need Zeke, we need Kelly, and we need Panda to break it all down.
Guys, why would you remind me that we have 1 game left? This has just made me extremely sad, but it's okay. I'm gonna push through the sadness. All right. Wow, that was absolutely crazy. Once again, though, we're pushing through and making sure this heal off is not a thing. Yes, thank you, NA West, for doing that, because I'm telling you, man, when you go to that heal off, it's not going to go the way you want. Now, we've only seen this happen one time where someone literally had 3 different chug splashes, corn and cabbage, and it was the longest, craziest thing I think I've seen in a long time, but I'm down to just see people eliminate each other, Kelly. I'm down for that.
FJA's team, that's what they've kind of been doing. They've been grabbing great placements, they got great eliminations, and I think that's part of the reason why they saw victory in that 3rd game right there. So huge shout out to that team getting that victory royale. But we have to look at a few of the other teams that we saw performing in that last game. France and Sharp right here doing a good job third partying another team, just watching what's going on within those boxes. And then look at that, Panda.
What a play. France's team split up around this trio and utilized the gas cans effectively to break behind, get the walls behind, and get some really nice tags in. This team decided to aggress, but it still wasn't going to work out in their favor. But we got to talk about FJAA, Jaquan, and Gremlin. This team, if you don't know, was just outside the top 6 yesterday, but it's okay because they're here with total eliminations of 6 and a top qual finish in 5th. So, I mean, just impressive stuff on the board here, Kelly.
Oh yeah, and they've been able to make it to the end game almost every single time, regardless if that was yesterday or here today, and that is a key factor. We see these top teams kind of making, a 2nd place or 3rd place finish, but then in the next game they're eliminated on drops. So that consistency is still so important here right now. They only grabbed 6 eliminations compared to the 11 eliminations that we saw from our first 2 winners, but right now, this also showcases, hey, Dirty Dogs is open. They were landing there uncontested. We also know that Poppy left Holly Hedges. So a lot of these very important, very pivotal drop spots are becoming available, but can our teams that are remaining, the 30 teams that remain, can they adjust? And that is a big factor of Reboot Rounds.
Yeah, that it is. And with only one game remaining, you have to make sure you're making adjustments. Now, something to think about too, and we saw this in NA East, when one team qualifies through from a drop spot, people do tend to move there. But sometimes it tends to be multiple people. So you have to be careful not to get yourself contested, especially in the final game.
Taking a quick look of how that game 3 ended up here, and just look from the start, again, holding height down. Sako's team doing a pretty good job staying on the low ground, but FJAA just standing up on top while his teammates drop down below, grabbing those eliminations. That is what you want to see. You want to see diversity in their gameplay. All 3 of them can't just stay up here, slowly but surely dropping down, making sure that they're not dropping down to their doom there. An incredible play right here, and again, a reason why they're going to be walking away with that victory royale. And who cares about elimination? All you want is that VR, Panda.
That is it. And they did a great job of controlling everything going on in this scenario from start to finish, which you got to give them props for. They knew in their minds that they had the victory royale regardless. They knew, because you saw just the absolute control from start to finish of that situation. And it's impressive. You don't always have that, especially when the pressure is high in those final moments. So big props to them for being able to take home that VR.
Yeah, I do have to say, it really is about control. That you saw that they went down just block by block, not really dropping all the way down into the low ground immediately, because if you do that with one player, that's a 3v1 situation. But by slowly lowering themselves, having better vision than the bottom team, being able to see where they're going, they're able to do it as a team. And I can't wait to see them perform in our finals competition, because that is a top team mentality right there.
Oh man, the finals is but a week away, and we have one spot left to fill, my friends. I didn't want to say goodbye. How about we just make this, let's just go like 20 more reboot rounds. We can do that, right, production? Apparently the bus driver is yelling at me in the ear. We're not allowed to do that. One more game. Sounds about right. Well, Fortnite fam, as you guys know, this is it. The last game here in the reboot round for the day, which means we will have to say goodbye after it is said and done. But don't forget, watch.fortnite.com, a great place to watch. We're also back next weekend, the finals. It's 2 days, 6 games both days, and at the end of it, prize money in the Acts of Champions is being given out. Make sure you're here for it, because it's going to be insane. But this is it. Every interaction matters, and only the Victory Royale will earn you a spot on the bus. So let's do this one last time from the FNCS.
One more time onto the island. Here we go. It's match number 4. My name's Sundown, joined by the fabulous, as always, Clay Stelling to call all the action here. And it's about the W. Doesn't matter how many eliminations. Ooh, fishy. Sorry. Easily distracted. I know it's one of my favorite contrails. Also got one of the nice Victory Royale early umbrellas coming through. But, I mean, gotta keep eyes initially down at Lazy Lake. I mean, Rivers on Kennington Go, it seems like they've been so close so many times, but just can't quite put it all together.
The problem with going from contested to uncontested, as you said it well, the Storm Surge they're no longer getting is going to be where they struggle. One last chance to refine your game and make it into the finals for the season. Can they do it? Riversun has been in so many different finals, I believe on both regions as well for NA here. And NA East and NA West. Started here at NA West, moved over to NA East for a bit, now coming back. Can he do it?
Well, statistically, the answer would be no. However, I don't really believe in statistics in this regard. It feels weird to see an NA West Finals without Riverson. I mean, he's just, after moving across the NA East, being one of the few players to have even a marginal amount of success over there, and then being able to flip back, play with different trio mates, and always make it to the finals. Like, it feels like they should be able to put it all together. But at the same time, based off of everything we've seen, and we've seen a lot of them, like, I don't think they've managed to win a game throughout the entirety of the qualifiers? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been close.
I don't believe they have either, to my knowledge, but I'm sure we can get that checked for us as we're over to Misty Meadows, which has been chaotic today, to say the least. What can Luca, Lux, and Halcon look out on this time? And dropping a medkit that early on is always very interesting. It is the early game, so they can go back to it, as Lucas is bad. It's going to go down to fall damage there. Unfortunate. Not sure how that one happened in the feed, but that is truly not what you want to see in the last game of the reboot round. Halcon still just continuing to farm up. Misty has subdued its fight since those earlier games.
Yeah, I might have gotten chopped like a custom salad there, but right now, Halcon, Lux out, and Luca just trying to farm out Misty and avoid any amount of attention that could go. Again, what are the stakes, you might ask as a viewer if you're just tuning in? First of all, welcome. Thanks for catching the very final qualifying action before we get to the finals. Next week, one more team will advance to the finals. And who is that team? Well, it's whoever wins this match.
Nothing else matters. You can get 17, 18, 19, 20 eliminations, but if you're second place, it doesn't matter. And look at that shot there onto Will Cry. Bach and his teammates are now going to continue to push. That's such a beautiful angle there. And getting your early game fights to end that quickly, that's one way to put you that much closer to the victory royale.
And really, you have to question what Wilkai is doing out there. I mean, kind of looking like he was hanging out in one of my solo games, just crouching on the rooftops. And Baka's not going to miss that shot, able to connect right away. And you can see him actually able to throw another shot over Rimuru, just barely able to avoid being hit by that one. You can see Former has pushed up to try and occupy that space there to get some of the metal. But with the white tags coming through, you have to feel like that's going to signal the go. Baka, Lendero, and Victor trying to get the pressure on it. You can see the meds try to be popped by Farmer, but Rimuru has already given him up, already just trying to create space, potentially even just get out of render distance. Former going down there. Shakedown will be taken off, and with them on top of zone, they're not going to have to worry about search.
And look, they're going for the maximum amount as well, going for the headshot there on the downed player. Will give them as much surge damage as they needed. And in that moment for Former, their goal, take as much time as I can to keep them from getting to my teammates and use as much materials and resources as I can, because you talked about it. Resource denial is such a big thing. And if all they can get from you is some surge and those extra little bit of mats from the siphon itself, you've done a good job at getting the best out of a bad situation. And speaking of a bad situation, JT not looking good at all. They're swimming away for their tournament dreams.
And you can see tags already coming through. You can see some shots being thrown his way. And you don't want to end up in this situation. Now, I am very familiar with this part of the map. This is basically core to my fishing route. And there is a ton of loot that is available just around this coast. Like, way more than you would think. But not enough for Jay the Hunt to be able to fight off this 1v3. And once you've committed and you're below this high ground, it's really hard to get back in. He's going to invest absolutely everything. But I wouldn't be shocked if Godbro, yep, as I say that, you can see the steam coming off his ears. Like, he's already popped the pepper to try and get ahead of this. He has the lever shotgun, which he must have opted into in terms of attack, maybe to try and get wall to wall, which interesting decisions. We don't always see it, but Rizzle and Yumi is up somewhere. He's over on the high ground, actually, just on the cabin over on the side. You can see him just a little bit to the north, trying to ride over the hill. Has that move balloon, but needs to be careful getting that popped, and he's going to meet up with him. So now what was a 1v3 is an interesting 2v3 as Rizzle X Yumi is just yeehaw right on into the mix, drops on top of Godbro's head, goes straight into his box, and just bodies Godbro. Let's see if Godkoi can get up there and help him out. He will finally be able to get wall to wall and take it out, but I'm not gonna lie, that was super aggressive from Rizzle X Yumi there, but Godkoi and Skadoosh are going to be able to clean it up. They should be able to get a reboot, but getting a reboot from that kind of quadrant of the map is actually a little bit tricky. You need to be rotating in centrally, and it really disallows you from taking that coastal route, which you want to prefer unless like you kind of stopping at Dirty Docks. You see Remzi execute ED, and Flumsy able to pick up an Elam there, rotating through Boney Burbs as yet another trio has their FNCS season ended.
And I'm going to go out on a limb, but I don't think we're going to get a heal off this game. It's just not trending that way. NA West said, Reboot Round heal ups, while they are exciting, We want to just go out and get all of the eliminations that we can. Really show everyone that, hey, while we were in the reboot rounds, we definitely deserve to be in those finals games. Moving over to the Zate Hill, as it's referred over in NAEs, we've got France, Sharp, and Blako up here trying to find some tags onto the team rotating by. Honestly, if they were going to hit a snipe from there, that would have just been amazing to see. They've got cabbages, only 9 of them, so hopefully able to find a couple more. But again, with the way it's trending, heal off is not where we're focused.
But it's just always got to be one of those footnotes, one of those backstories, one of the asterisks that you kind of just keep an eye on, because again, it's one more option that could potentially end up coming out. But so far, the story of NA West has been the hip-to-hip trios who have been able to control their space and make it all the way together into the end game. That was largely how Sharp, Blako, and France were able to win their match yesterday, but right now they're going to rotate through and they're going to continue to pick up those cabbages and over-index on the white heels.
And honestly, leaving them on the ground again was part of resource denial. You could pick them up, go put them into one of these areas, box them up, and you'll be fine. But at the end of the day, at the same time, there's just so many wide heels that it'd be so hard to deny all of them, especially in that main building. Those shelves are full of apples and corn. It's just really, really hard to find. And in A West, we've got a reboot.
You got a reboot, and honestly, like, if I'm that trio right now, at least if I'm okay on Storm Surge tags, I'm not sure if I saw they had elimination. I think they'd at least gotten someone rotating through, but we've already seen it be relatively aggressive. Like, I'm just very disappointed we've yet to see anybody commit to the heal off strat, because with the correct zones pulling over there and enough opportunity, they could realistically pull it off, and it looks like there's one team that's going to be rotating in behind it, but I don't think they're going to be staying around the area.
Honestly, the team behind them is just looking for any extra wide heels as you see them coming out. And I'd be surprised if they didn't stop. Okay, so they do end up actually stopping there. Sniper shot going to be thrown out there, not going to connect. And for backup, I think we've actually seen a couple reboots coming through, because we were well below 70 at that point. We weren't just at 1. And so a couple players getting back in. So we may see that surge that we saw last game come through, but NA West likes to always keep us on our toes, so.
Yeah, and you see Sharp actually hopping out, doing a nice little bout face, saying, hey, let's check and see what's going on over there. And after Hex's little adventure on the other side, we have a team who really feels like they should be playing in the finals. That's Yasir, Optidog, and DL. Plenty of corn in his inventory, has the medkit. So white heels galore there, owns the top of Lazy Lake, and getting some nice shots there with that epic pulse rifle. Again, 35 damage going through. We are on 70, so if another reboot does end up popping off, we could end up with Storm Surge, but it's not super likely.
Once again, this trio finds themselves set up right in the middle at one of the highest points in that zone as well. They've invested a lot, but luckily for them, again, it's all easily refarmable. It's surprising to see why DL has 108. I'd love to see what mats they're actually missing there, but over-indexing on those wide heels. Again, as we see, it's actually going to be in the wood, in the brick, which to me is very confusing because the entire building below them is made out of brick. So one of them needs to go down and get a little bit of that refarm going on, because while they're looking for these tags, you need those builds to get into the end game.
I'm okay with it, actually, because I think you prioritize tags while people are rotating around and trying to establish their position, because once people are in, you're not really going to be able to find tags. You don't want to be looking at them as people are kind of trying to set up or might have a bead on you with a sniper rifle. If you can be the first one there and kind of be throwing those bullets out before people are able to really set up, as Riverside and Co are doing right now, I think it puts you in a situation where, like, that the building's always going to be there, right? Somebody's not going to end up farming that out from underneath you, so they have the option to go back down. And with how central they are in the position, it's probably another 3 to 4 minutes before they're going to have to worry about even potentially rotating away. And in that time, I'm sure they'll probably dip down, smack a couple walls, or maybe wait till they rotate and hit some of those high-efficiency rocks that are around here.
Ooh.
But Riverside needs to be careful there. That's one of those ones where you do a little bit of an IRL dodge. Not going to lie, if you kind of look at the camera there, I did a little quick head to the left.
And that's one of the ones that like sometimes you'll go the wrong way on as well. You'll like move your character the opposite way and it ends up getting you, and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, come on, there is no way that happened. Luckily it's a far enough distance that it wouldn't affect them as bad. So anytime that you eat into any heals in this type of game, not where you want to be. In the 6-game format, you can afford to take that much damage every once in a while, but unfortunately, as we see, your Seer is going to go down. That's got to be a sniper shot like we almost saw there onto Riversun. But again, they're far enough away that I don't think it's going to impact that game that severely, and they should be able to get him back up.
Yeah, and just don't want to ever end up in that situation again, because we've talked about it, resource management and all that, and taking what after the revive ends up being an extra 170 effective HP in the form of 70 white and then 100 shields. It's just so damaging to your overall economy, particularly in a game where everyone is trying to min-max as efficiently as possible. Make it, and you can see we are getting one of those lazy lake-esque zones kind of in the lake in between that and Misty, and this is honestly a really rough spot for these players, because once you're committed into this area and out from the natural high ground, there's not a whole bunch of space. So whoever's able to kind of get that real estate right now is going to be in prime position. Additionally, this area of the map, there is very little to refarm. There's a couple clusters of rocks, there's a couple of standalone trees, but that's really it. There's no metal to be reswinging on, and once you get through these high value rocks, the resources you get is the resources you carry over here. So Godbro is not going to get any more metal unless he's able to eliminate somebody else. That's why you're going to see all of these trios. If they get an option, they're going to try and base up around a tree, around a rock, if they can't get one of the natural high grounds. Priority is high ground, and then resources, and then just getting inside the safe zone.
They've gotten themselves in 2 for the moment, but look at Wiz, Cypress, and Lil J there holding anyone out from down below. They luckily able to use that natural cover to get in. As we see a car blow up there in the distance, Riverside Extincted Kitties have essentially not had to really move from where they've landed. Yes, we saw them go a little bit north, but able to make it back through. And only one medkit here for Riverside. I don't know what Extincted Kitties have, but again, not a lot of players are going for that heal off, but you still have to prep for it. Like you said, if you don't, it ends up going to that. You're gonna feel so bad that you did not prepare. Nice shots there for Riverside Extincted Kitties, though. That's one of the things they needed to work on, was those Storm Surge tags. Getting them now.
And you can see Triggy, Goon, and Zara's trying to get the pressure there onto Jasko and their trio. You can see dropping down. Already have gotten one of the knocks and getting wall-to-wall almost immediately, but they need to be careful because they don't own everything in this area. You can see some of those red walls popping up, and if you open up the wrong one, you might be faced with a trio on the opposite side. Luckily for Goon, he is still rocking with that Parasite. He has the 3 medkits, so he could end up just having it knocked off by one of his teammates, but it gives him the kind of the better ability to peek in those box-to-box fights. It gives him a little bit more room to take a shot and a little bit more room for error. And right now, Riversun just trying to occupy a little bit more space here, but this is what we talked about, where every single one of the hard mats that you invest here, you're not getting back. It's gone.
Can they find and maybe able to get into these fights here inside of Lazy to get some of those refreshes, but it's just not worth it at this point if you're fighting this early.
And I did want to end up correcting something that I'd speculated about. We talked about, like, couldn't remember them winning a game in the qualifiers. They did end up winning a match in qualifier number 2. I believe that was in the match where they just wiped Macon and Dog right off of the start and forced Jay to kind of rotate away, getting the entirety control out of Lazy Lake. But normally what had ended up happening for them is they get a solid amount on the ones where they weren't immediately wiped off a spawn, which I think they won about at least 60 to 70% of the fights over there, based off of the fact that, well, they're here and Dog and Co aren't. But outside of that, once they even got in the mid game, and we've seen it here today, they got bogged down in a couple of fights they didn't necessarily need to take. But when you get them into that end game scenario, they're very good at picking up eliminations. And I'm going to stop that train of thought as we see the map on the right hand side. You talk about changes in verticality. That thing is parked on top of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different very, very distinct changes in topography. Like, that is rough.
It's gonna be hard. You talked about no refarming. This is getting even worse. If it had pulled anywhere towards lazy, they may have been able to grab something. But look at that. Honestly, I would say whoever that team is on the west side of zone, they are chilling. It doesn't matter where the zone pulls next for them. They are set.
Yeah, they will just be able to walk through over there. And yes, while that westernmost mountain and high ground is already occupied, you don't have a great line of sight over there because the drop-off is so awful that as long as they just hug close to the mountainside, they should be okay. So right now, what are we going to be paying attention to? We're going to be paying attention to who has the natural high ground control, which trios are able to stay together hip to hip, and then reality of the situation is who goes down to Old Man Mountain, because we see these natural changes of geography plus so many of these player builds being thrown in, and it's all hard mats that are being invested. You can't afford to put soft mats down in this scenario, and those are that much harder to break through. So in order to get a clear path and head to the zone, it's going to be that much harder. And as you talked about, we have about 99% of that, literally 99% of the lobby is on the right-hand side of the map. If you cut down that circle down the middle, there is one trio who's on the western side.
And in 8 seconds, we're going to find out where it goes. Sean, unfortunately, going to fall there on that rotation. We will have that half in, half out storm surge start to activate right now. And oh, a lot of players just got the biggest sigh of relief of this game. They are going to pull that half in. That player, I think, get knocked down. They're going to fall all the way down. It's going to be Proyo. As Kenny's going to be the one to get it. Extinct is going all the way into zone just to secure it. And honestly, that's 100% worth because the zone's going to pull there. The zone will go right back out and they can keep farming that.
Yeah, they'll be able to walk themselves back over the front of that. And additionally, as we saw, they are just going to be able to occupy that space, which is what they want to stay up. And I say, honestly, they might have bitten off a little more they can chew, but it's the team who's just hanging out by themselves over on the western side. And again, not literally 99, I apologize, it's 95 because we had 21%. But instead of just rotating around the outside, they're going to go and just take the fight with the team who has the high ground control. And unfortunately, looks like that's going to be their FNCS as Drop gets dropped. Swayze has no shields left. Matt LOL isn't laughing now as Yumi ends up backing him off, and Vel, Breda, and Yumi look like they should be able to clean up what is now a 3v2. They're going to be forced to late rotate away. They were the ones who were holding the center high ground position, but a weird rotate from the team who was completely alone on the left-hand side. We see Sean Franklin picking up a knock there. Storm Surge will now turn off as we dip below 50 players, but we're closing in on the final late game of the final qualifying chance here for the FNCS in Chapter 2, Season 7. One more trio from NA West will be joining it. Will we see high ground shenanigans? Will a trio hip to hip be able to claim it yet again? Or will finally somebody be able to clutch up and be the hero we want to see? This is the final moments, Clay. We're into the moving zones. Let's go.
Who has high ground for now? We'll see. It's going to be Expo Johnny up there, but we know that doesn't matter because this is the game that everyone's going to be looking to fly to the skies to try to take it from everyone up there. And look at this beautiful shot that the observers are getting us, showing us everyone on all the individual layers. And look, the pre-tarp is already coming out, meaning they have pulled that moving zone. They're set up so well, but the change in verticality every single time we've seen a moving zone has caused high ground to change hands. Johnny's set up for the heal off. Hex and Gorilla need to be set up as well. Honestly, what a game. If Hex is able to win this, going from last game, being all by himself as a solo in the zone, if they're able to pull this off, what a story in of itself.
Really though, they need to be defensive like right now because everyone on the low ground is going to be using their launch pads. As long as they don't get high ground, take it away for them. It's going to be so hard for a team to reclaim it, but you can see already there's a couple people who are lurking towards the backside of the tarp. Merc is doing his best to try and reconnect, but I got eyes on Salco and his trio. You can see a brilliant pickup there from Prime Expo Johnny, just raining down shots with the legendary AR, keeping his trio up and above that Storm Surge. We need 5 trios to end up going down to that after this circle ends up closing. So plenty of players are going to have to go down. Lid zone pulling back over man-made builds. Not many players are going to be going down in the bottom left-hand corner. Kenny's, Riverson, Extinct, 2 of our predictions, trying to roll through. They've had a tough day so far. Will they have one last shot? They're looking good hip to hip. Up on the high ground, that's the top part of your screen. Prime Exo Johnny, Twitch, AO, Hex, and then Merc, Kyle Gorilla in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Zarez, Insight, Triggy, and Goonvro doing everything they can to get on the front of the zone. And here's the high ground take. You can see the bottom left-hand corner. keep an eye on it as Extinct, Kenny's, and Riverson. They're 25 damage below. Thank you, observers. Pull that up because this is what matters for them. We've seen them in this situation before. 5 more players need to go down. They have plenty of shields that can end up investing, but you're not seeing players drop as Zone has gone back over the old builds. Players are able to just double back and not expose themselves. AO Hex up on the high ground, able to pick up another one, but they're eating through every single one of their shields. And just as I say that, they drop 7 damage above. But Dragon RG, Robin Z try and rip it away. Hex going back up to provide some help. Dragon goes down, but Johnny is the cost of it, in the trade in the high ground could be ripped away, as now they're just a duo, giving an opportunity for the trios on the low ground to keep it running.
Riverside's still there with Extinct, and Kenny's can still try to make something happen. They had to invest a lot of their white heals, though. They're looking for that high ground. You saw them start to look up there, trying to get involved there. If they can get up there and control the game like we know they can, this will be great. Shot down coming through, Cone over the top. They got to be careful, though. Don't want to invest too much, as Zayrez and Goon are going to be up there with Tricky. Kenny's did fall down. It's now all up to Riverside. Can they clutch up big with Extinct? Can they find anything? Chug Cannon up above. Mech gets there for Goonbro. They can win this game, but they have to play it perfectly. They don't have a lot of mats. 22 builds at this stage of the game. It's not going to be enough unless it pulls right back over.
And we've seen it pull back and forth like a pendulum, but if they need it to swing their way one more time, where is the pull? We'll see. And it's going out and away from where everything was, and Riverson's FNCS is now in the hands of Extinct, and just like his namesake and the Dinosaurs, it's over for them. They'll be spectators in the final as one of the veterans fails to qualify. The question is, who will be able to grab a spot? Who will be able to push through and keep the run alive and try and get it? You can see Puxum trying to go up, but he bonks his head. Yumi on the low ground has a launch pad right next to Bretta, able to pick up another Elam and the Siphon going off, but up on the high ground, still just raining down shots. Yumi with 0 builds left goes for a chop, and he finds a 92, and he takes out Remzi. Yumi on the high ground could look to clutch it out, but the question is, who is hip to hip? There's a trio full on the low ground, and that has been the answer so far in West. The low ground trio, if they're able to just work their way up, high ground's being challenged back. Puxum, Nickjaw, and Flixie. It's a 3v1v3. Will it be a hero, or like every other NA West game, will we have the top versus the bottom? Marcanix goes down, making it a 3v2v1. Landero trying to just throw a wrench in here. Salty trying to not be salty by being eliminated, instead finds a huge 180. He's with his teammate there, but Nickjaw and Flixie work from top down, and like every single other NA West match, there's no heal off. It's a straight trio working together and closing the match out, and what a way to end the FNCS qualifiers before finals.
It was action-packed the entire day all around the regions, and NA West wanted to go out on top with all of the action. They said, heal-offs, while those are fun to watch, we just want to slay out, and we want to show you that, yes, maybe we didn't qualify through those semis, but we deserve to be here just like anybody else, and that's what everybody proved today that got that victory royale. And honestly, I am so excited for next weekend just to see how those 12 games are going to play out.
It's 12 games next weekend to determine who will hold that Axe of Champions, but that is it from us. That's it from the reboot round. Every single one of the stage is set for all the other regions, and to close it out, we're going to kick it over to the desk. Zeke, Kelly, Panda, take us home.
Oh man, it's all over. Man, a ton of well-fought efforts from so many of the trios, but in the end, NA West has been the pioneer of the strategy here in the reboot round. Every other region was all about just waiting, saying we're gonna take it to a heal off, let's just let it go to that. NA West said, no fam, we'd like to make it to the FNCS finals. We're gonna take our own destiny into our own hands, and we're claiming one of those spots on the bus.
I almost feel like watching EU and NA East was a bit of a detriment to a lot of these NA West teams, that they saw that it did go to the heal off. So maybe that they were prioritizing their loot, prioritizing making sure that they were farmed up a lot. And unfortunately, it didn't go to a heal off. So a lot of these teams that had multiple chug cannons, although it's very important to have those in the end game, regardless if you're going to a heal off, might have changed the course of this path.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Watching other regions do what they do and then try to replicate it in your region won't always work, especially when you look at West and how diverse West gameplay truly is. But we got to spotlight this team. Nick Jaw, Flixie, and Puxum taking home that final victory royale and that final spot into the grand finals with a total eliminations of 6. Like that's pretty solid when eliminations aren't really the focus.
Yeah, and I mean, look at what they're doing here, though. In the qualifiers, they got 24th place, and the Heat, they got 14th, missing out by 3 spots of not even making it into the reboot round. And this is the first time that any of these players here are going to be in the FNCS finals. So I'm so excited to see how they're going to showcase their ability against the Titans that are waiting for them right there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up against these other players here in the grand finals, because we haven't seen a lot of teams be extremely successful out of a reboot round. However, this could be the difference. This could be the change that we want to see. Nick Jaw, Flixie, and Puxum, this could be the difference. But we're going to jump into some highlights. We got to talk about the victory royales because there are so many great moments there in these finals.
Well, you heard Sundown say it. It was time and time again that we saw high ground versus low ground. No heal-offs necessary here. And actually taking a quick look at that last victory royale, which it is Flixie's team indeed, doing the slow descend into the low ground to make sure that they're able to grab those eliminations just in case the lower ground team does have some heal-off potential. But there's no need for heal-off potential when you're just going to drop them down anyway.
You're not wrong. I mean, looking at the way that they played this very, very well. There was a few risks in jumping into Storm, but hey, listen, it worked out in their favor. And here it is, the trios that have qualified through today's NA West reboot round. It is Oofy, Scissor, and Eclipse. You got Kosaka, Devin, and B-Dog. And look, Jaquan, FJAA, Gremlin. These are some great teams here, Kelly.
Oh yeah, joining Nick, Jaw, Flixie, and Puxum, and as well as joining the other 29 teams that are already at the finals right now. I cannot wait for this next week. 6 games over 2 days. That means it's going to be 12 games for the grand finals for that $222,000 prize pool. I am so excited. I can't wait. Zeke, can we just have it tomorrow?
Kelly, if I had the power to make that happen, it would already be done. But unfortunately, I've not grown that powerful just yet. So just give me a few millennia probably, and I will get there. Fortnite fam, as these two have mentioned, this is it. This means we close the reboot round. We close this weekend of the competition. The next weekend, finals time. Make sure you're out here for at least one of the 2 days. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. We love you guys so much. As always, please give these two a follow. Give Sundown and Clay a follow. We love all of our human beings that are part of this show. Fortnite fam, we hope you have a great rest of your day. As always, we love you guys, and we'll see you on that battle bus.